Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another element of event. We are here with qualifier number 3. It has been a long wait getting into this, and we have more events ahead of us. But first, let's break it down for everybody who's just joining us today. I'm here with Man of Class. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing amazing. It's a time for another qualifier for the Element Fusion event. Of course, a squads event coming up right at you, and it's exciting because we might have favorites for this one, Play Safe, but there's also a lot of new names that we actually may not have seen in scrims or anywhere really before. And to me, that screams potentials for dark horses, and that's always exciting to me.
Yeah, we do got some dark horses, but I think that the main prediction for me, the winner to take this all, is going to be IMQT, led by Marcus, aka Apostle, followed up by QZ and the Dark Breakers. We've seen those guys together in these scrims for multiple days now. They are dominant in some of these games. They got a
Yeah.
new playstyle that's a bit interesting with the Dark Breakers. Everybody knows he's got that Stone Shaper in the pocket, can also play a couple other classes. So I'm excited to see what they pull out. In the dark horse category for myself, I got Monfongo Bros, and that's a new type of coalition we got going there. Primo Tastic, we've seen dominate in solo events, but I want to see what he can do in the squad environment.
Yeah, I said it before. I'll say it again. I like it when teams come up with good names. I'm QT. It's of course the combination of Marcus, the Dark Breakers, or QZ, and then the Dark Breakers, so MTQ or MQT. It's annoying. They switched up the order on my sheet, so I don't actually know. We got some last minute additions. For instance, Sap is coming in for hot and spicy. There'll be Viper, Navorsen, and Eden. And the team that I'm really looking forward to, as you know, the EU representative. It's always fighting against you, NA folk, is Thunder Thighs, Moktola, Doc, Milsey, 42. They're coming in with that EU roster. So if they do well, that's going to be good for me because then I can say that EU is once again better than NA in an esport, which is happen quite often.
Yeah, well, that is a deadly team. I mean, Moktola, we've seen him out here in competitive for a long time. He always has that conduit in the pocket as well. So it's going to be cool to see Thunder Thighs come out, like you said, representing EU. We have a couple mixed squads as well that are combined of NA and EU players. And we'll break that down a little bit more when we get into the game itself. But Speakers for the Dead, for example, is not split up between NA and EU, but they're not on the same region inside of NA. So we got NA West and NA East kind of combined together. Himeas Mora is an NA East player. Going to be interesting to see if they try to decide their classes based on latency. I know that Pyro and Stone Shaper are a little bit easier to handle when you got a higher latency. So I'm interested to see if they put that into their decision making. But we're just waiting a little bit longer for game one to start. As you guys know, the queue system has changed up just a little bit. Takes a little bit longer to get into some of these matches. So we got a bit more time to tell the people what to expect in this game one situation, Man of Class.
Yeah, very much so. And of course, it's just, again, we talk about squads, we talk about, what different builds is everybody going to run. And usually when we talk about solos, it's quite easy because they can really run anything. But always important to keep in mind in squads, the rules that we have, you cannot pick the same class twice within your squad because that's the same elements twice, but not both on the main hand. That's all it is about, and that opens up a lot of variety, opens up a lot of opportunities for teams to be experimental, but also define their own playstyle with it. We saw it even last night in scrims. The team of Cozy and Speary, and they really define their own playstyle, not only by why they're land, but also because they have two players running that fortitude, and then they have obviously different classes they have to run, and it's a very different way that they have to play around everything than some other teams do that choose to go for more of a pyromancer, maybe of a fervor build. It's very very telling what a team can do because of what they have running up and what certain players in the team what their role is, and that's really exciting about squads.
Yeah, that's very true. And speaking of some of the squads we got coming out today, there is a bit of a change. So Team SAP has actually slid into this qualifier. That is Viper, Navorsen, and Eden, aka Imagine. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they play into this. We've seen them before in these events, and they usually do quite well. They play a very strategic game style. I'm excited to see if that can pay off against some of these other teams. We do have those dark horses that you mentioned. I did talk about Monfongo Bros, but there's also DOTS at the bottom of the score sheet there if you guys want to go check them out. That's another team to look out for. DOT Frost, they do have potential to make some big plays in these early games. Remember that 6 out of the 8 games get counted in total, so there is some opportunities for teams to really throw a wrench into this system and blow up for a couple matches and set themselves apart.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, we're waiting for to get into the game, of course, seeing what's going to happen with those. But yeah, for now, we all we can do is talk about it. Talk about all the wonderful things that Spellbreak is bringing to us, and maybe the exciting stuff we're going to get soon. Of course, today, if you haven't noticed, the third part of the prologue has gone live with the toxic class being the focus of everything. After we already had fire and then wind, it's now going up to toxic collegists. So exciting. If you're a fan of that class, this is your week to shine and show that you can get those honor points really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Those honor quests are definitely an added little incentive for the players to try to keep themselves going. We'll see if more of those progression stuff get released. I know there was some controversy over some sort of skins and their class, the pyro skin. So good to see all of that get sorted out. And now these players can get along with their honor quests, like you mentioned. Not going to be a big concern for these players, though. I don't think honor quests are going to play into their decisions between what classes to pick. Definitely just going to go with whatever they've been scrimming with. And we've seen a lot of interesting combinations of classes. What are your favorites to see in terms of the, conduit, stone shaper, pyro, or what are your favorite combos or most dangerous combos in your opinion?
I mean, I've really been liking that fortitude build with when you have the toxicologist and then maybe the frost on the offhand, because you have that extra burst for the close range. You still have some escapability, because of the vanishing mist. And if you want to, you can just stay at range and fight that. We saw quite a few players do all of that on Monday in the solo scrims, where they just sort of didn't engage, but rather got a lot of damage in from range. I got a lot of finishes. Exile won a game with that. We saw Cozy do pretty well with that's fortify build. And I hope more teams, more players adopt it. But it would also be cool to have that be more of an individualistic or specific team style. Because whereas they've been running it, we haven't seen it that much in other players.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, Fortitude is one of those talents that you do have to play around once you select it. I do think Fervor is so dominant, even in squads, because of the damage output it gives you early game as well. If you can get a couple scrolls read up, your burst and your potential to just melt a target goes up exponentially. But it was interesting to see Cozy. I did watch some of those scrims the other day when they had that nice little game set with the Fortitude combination. We'll see if somebody tries something like that. I'm excited to see Foresight and see if it comes out. I've been a bit underwhelmed with the presence of that talent. Haven't seen it as much as I was maybe hoping. I thought some players would be able to stack 1 point and then go for it, but we'll see if that comes out here in these events. I know these players definitely have their game strategies pretty much already locked in.
Yeah, it definitely is. We're gonna load into the game as soon as we can. We'll see straight away whether or not that will make a difference in terms of builds and what we're used to from these players. Gonna jump here onto the first squad, which is indeed Dot Frost. So it's the Dots squad, DOTS. I think I'm just gonna call it Dots. It's probably easier, even though it's all caps. They didn't specify whether it was separate letters or not.
Yeah, well, they are definitely coming out here trying to get their early loot. Doesn't look like they're going to be contested in their spot. So that's always nice to see for some of these teams, especially in game one when you might need a bit of a warm-up. I know a lot of the times these players rack up some games before the event to get the warm-up in. But nonetheless, it's nice to just have a calm start in game one, especially for a team like DOTS that might be a little bit newer to the circuit. This is really ideal as they're going to see, as you see here, there's going to be some purple belts to pass around. And it looks like DOTS is going to be very happy with their starting position, MOC.
Yeah, and we do already see quite a few kills happening in the kill feed, but they are all non-tournament players so far as I can see. None of those names actually is showing up on my score sheet, so that means that it's two squads that weren't a part of this lobby in the first place. Might have a bit of a split going on. Right now, though, we're going to see if they can actually find an engagement. The loot's already been piling up for these players. Quite a bit of epics, some legendary. The gauntlets are filled. That's what you want to see from them. But for now, all we can do is wait and see where we end up.
Yeah, for sure. And we're getting a little bit of a hold up here as DOTS continues to just roll around the map, get their boots and their belts and all the rest of the stuff that is necessary. We'll see if we can bounce around to more of these other teams. It looks like there's a little bit of an issue on the PC end of it, so we're waiting to move around a bit quicker. Apologies as we're just going to wait. Yeah, it looks like we'll be sticking on this team.
Oh, cool. We can get a team showcase going in that case, play safe. Let's see where they end up. Of course, they haven't really found anybody. They're just outside the zone, so they don't have to move as fast and immediately going for that high ground rotation. You see a lot of teams do this where they don't really just say we're going straight to the zone. First of all, it's not necessary. You're not in a hurry. Still have a minute and a half before it even starts closing. And then, you still want some loot. So you go to that structure over there, but probably a lot of chests are going to be waiting for you. Starts with Super Sloth and the N crew are going to be going for that one. And they actually got Penguins Wakanda out early. Do see something going on of a fight, but I think we just jumped over to K Jordan and a few of these other players. They're working on the southeast of the map, going to the next structure to get their loot up. And it looks like they need it. No equipment on them just yet.
Yeah, and you did see earlier that one of the players on the before squad had Finders Keepers. So we're also looking out for that. We know that Finders Keepers made a big difference in some of the scrims the other day. Those knowledge potions are so juicy in those fights. And as we bounce out of that, we saw Blazin was in a lot of trouble. Now we get over to a new team, Jay Tizzle and the rest of them. Moktola won, though. This is a team, this is Thunder Thighs. We talked about them in the early game, and now we're watching them. It doesn't seem like they've picked any fights early in this game. You do see that their loot is not looking great either. So we'll see if they can just pick that up and maybe get themselves a little bit further ahead in terms of the loot table.
Yeah, I mean, they should probably be able to pick up a lot. It's not a very popular loot location, of course, far in the southwest of the map, all the way those desolate lands. Gonna be happy about that. A lot of structures where they can find some chests around that, so they'll be fine. And here we go to the SAP team. SAP Viper, Imagine, and of course Navorsen. I think that was. That was Navorsen, of course. So, yeah, we'll see if they're going to get further in this game. They are taking an engagement right now with another squad. They are on the low ground, though, but it's around the edge of the zone. It's going to be interesting how they choose to rotate into this or away from this if they go for that option. Right now, the high ground has been vacated by that enemy squad. Still running a bit of that cliff edge, but we'll be doing a great job, but imagine of rotating out and actually focusing one player with their team. Can't quite see what is going on. I think someone might have gone down, but of course, with a slideshow like this, it's hard to cast this. I'm sorry, guys. We're working on it. It's gonna all be great. It's yeah. Right now, I'm just waiting for the results of whatever is happening here, because all I see is a big flash on my screen plays.
Yeah, SAP Imagine, I got to assume goes down, considering all we have from this one frame is one player super low, so we just got to assume that the fight does not go SAP's way. Yes, you can see that turning around now, but it actually looks like SAP won the engagement. Sorry about that. Having a little bit of issues with the production right now. Unfortunately, the cast is hard to watch with the slow pace of this screen share. We see SAP did end up winning that fight. Now they're going to get the loot that they deserve after that engagement. 25 people left in game one. We'll see if they can carry this momentum further in the game. You see Imagine decided to go with that Spring Step Stone Shaper. So that's always an interesting build. A lot of ways you can make some very crazy angles happen, bouncing yourself up with Spring Step, coming down hard with the Hulk Smash, and taking some big damage. He has focused mana as well, so that's something to keep in mind. You can drop your Spring Step, obviously that does not cost mana, and you can open yourself up for a massive shockwave, 54 damage in some cases.
Yeah, we did see the Sergeant, Sergeant Super Sloth, SK Rainbow, and Rainbow Jake, and a few others get eliminated there, and that's the Clash Clang out. So that's not a great placement for them. Still 24 players in the lobby. Means roughly 6 squads. If actually, no, it's 8 squads. That's my bad. Still quite a bit to go, and of course, with 10 teams on the sign-up list, still not going to be a great placement for you if you are indeed that Clash Clang squad. We'll be looking into whether or not they can maybe come back in future games. Of course, they can eliminate 1 or 2 games from their roster, so they don't have to play this one. But it's not a great start to go off of. Now, Wawawiwa TV, Plato, and that's Primo-tastic. It's, of course, a nice squad coming out here. They're in engagement from the high ground, shooting down from the mountains at another team. It's looking like they're in a great position to take a fight, at least. They have the loot and everything, but you know, they're still choosing to play relatively safe because they don't want to overcommit and maybe lose a fight on the wrong grounds because they don't have the positioning, don't have to give that up.
Yeah, he is rocking that fortitude. We talked about that in the pregame broadcast. So it's interesting to see him take that out with the pyro. Not exactly what you'd expect for the most part on that selection, but we'll see them just rotate completely off of this fight. It looks like in the kill feed, you see Moktola 1 was popping off for his team. Thunder Thighs getting some much needed points as it looks like another freeze has popped up. So we're just going to keep on going, talking about the builds as best we can until hopefully the gameplay pops back up. Again, we apologize for this production error. But Man of Class, we are seeing that presence of fortitude like you talked about in the pregame. Looks like it has been decided that that is a nice selection for these players.
Cool. Well, you know, we're just getting to switch over to a different screen from our other observer that we got the POV from now. And it is Yovi today on the cam together with Docta. So Docta, Nut, and Yovi giving us the beautiful stream that we're always hoping to get. It's going to be indeed this squad that we're following here: Primotastic, Plato, and Wawa Wiwa. It's looking like they're just fine chilling on this mountain. They're probably pretty good looking in the zone, just checking out wherever they can rotate, where they see players coming from. And if you have all this information, well, why would you give that up, right? Like, there's no reason for them to go away from this. Other than maybe you wanted to get some better boots for Wawiva, but I don't think that's worth trading off this. And they're all running at Fortitude, like you were saying before. It's all in a pretty good spot for them. I'm actually not that worried that they're going to get further in the circles.
Yeah, now we see Wawa Wiwa trying to take some deep shots onto the opponents, rotating around the side of the map. This could be a great angle for the team here, but it doesn't land. Primo is looking to get another shot as well. You see this team is racked up with the Ice Gauntlets, a common selection in the trios. We know how much potential that gauntlet has to pop off for big damage. So this is Team Monfongo, bros. Just a heads up for anybody keeping track at home on the score sheets. I have these guys slotted in as the dark horse. Let's see if they can do something, as it looks like they're going to make the push now, MOC. All the production areas have cleared up, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you for sticking with us, as now we're going to be able to watch this fight live. Wawa Wiwa running up. Those boots you mentioned are not helping him get across this hill, but he's still trying to get this damage in. Focused Mana with Ice would do so well early in this fight, but it doesn't look like it's going to connect MOC. They are going to continue to rotate around, but this is about to blow up into a big engagement.
Yeah, 100%. It's eventually going to be a big clash. 20 teams left. The circle's getting closer and closer. 20 teams. I mean, of course, 20 players. 20 teams would be insane in a lobby like this. But yeah, going to be seeing if they can keep this dominant positioning that they have been having. Primotastic, Plato, and Wawa Wiwa. But we're going to be switching over to IMQT. There is Marcus Apostle, QQZ, and Darkbreakers. And so far, they are able to have a good position inside of the zone. They have a little bit of high ground, can poke at teams that are trying to get into this zone. And with those Frost Lances, QQZ is at least making their life living hell, would almost say. But they're probably going to be fine to eventually rotate in. As soon as Marcus as well just says, you know what, let's just back up a little bit and make sure that our other flanks are covered. They still do want to make sure that that team doesn't come in their backs otherwise. Like, they really are in a position where they don't want to get third-partied. And that's why they're now shooting at 3 different teams, which, of course, is a very logical thing to do.
Yeah, KQZ is absolutely looted out of his mind, though. Legendary's on both wrists, and he's just trying to get these shots to connect. Got that Vigor fully stacked as well, so this squad is looking great in terms of damage potential and whatever they got for the scrolls. 20 people left in the game. QZ just trying to hit some shots. Can't quite get any of these to go, but the 72 will stick. Nice hit from QZ as he looks for the kill shot, but can't get it. What a tough angle. Does have Spring Step as well, so more of a presence for this rune in today's first game. We see that this squad is about to get rolled up on, though. Marcus, aka Apostle, doing a great job of gardening a little bit of that toxic spray. QZ just throwing in those shots. This is team coordination at its best right here, as these players will just hold the high ground. They have enough accuracy to fend off these players without having to change position. Look at QZ just try to deal out that damage on the Pyro. Nice work right here from IMQT early in game 1, MOC.
Yeah, we're going to have a very, very interesting dynamic going on here between all these different teams that are all trying to rotate through this tiny little zone that's coming up in the green area over there. But they're still in the dust pool. Don't want to give that positioning up. And they still have to keep their heads on the swivel. I mean, this is an entire dynamic of what's going on right now, is that all these teams are looking to go to the same spot, but they're all coming from different places, and they all run into each other while traveling over there. And while, Frost Lances are pretty good to shoot from range and actually do some damage out there, all you're really going to do is just drain their resources a little bit. That's still a good tactic, but eventually that's not going to lead you to getting kills immediately. It's all long-term planning, and I think I actually like that more. Don't always just go for the aggressive kills, but also realize that chipping health can be just as effective in the long run.
Yeah, Thunder Thighs is in the kill feed, though, staying up there with so many exiles onto the opponents here. They're going to get a nice little bit of score early in the game. We got QZ now trying to push his advantage. Marcus, a.k.a. Apostle, takes out Noah the Elite, and we see them just completely go for this kill now. KQZ tries to cock up a shot, but it's going to get blocked by a firewall, so he switches to the fireball, goes for the flick, but it just barely misses onto his opponent. He's doing a great job of using his firewall for extra cover while still being able to pop shots over it while he jumps. QZ, though, doesn't get anything directly. Now they're going to just look to move up on this fight. Look at how small the circle is getting, MOC. This one's going to come down to the wire. QZ misses a crucial shot, and now he's going to have to fully commit to this high ground retake. Doesn't quite get it to go, though. Primotastic gets the drop onto Doc, so we know somebody from Thunder Thighs is low, but the huge hit plus DF. And now we see I am a QT just going crazy in the final zone.
Oh, the shots. That's docked down. No more EU victory for that guy. I might still get rest. Who knows? We saw some crazy things coming out yesterday. But with this circle being so close and everyone being in each other's faces, it's going to be super tough to get that going. And look at the health bars for IMQT. They're just not being pressured at all. That fight on the high ground was going on. They could just be shooting ice lances into that for days. Now, there's just one player left. I think there's one, maybe two, that haven't been disrupted yet. It looks like it's just only one. The Dragonfire could go out on those toxic clouds, but I don't even need it. They're just going to clean up this one. And IMQT first place in this first round, showing up very well. I don't think this game will be eliminated from their score sheets after we hit the full 8, but who knows? They might be even doing better later on.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great start for IMQT. We did talk about them when we first started the broadcast about how they are most likely the favorites, and they're showing why right there. A dominant performance. They had great positioning all the way throughout that fight. They did get a bit sloppy at the end, but that's just because they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and they ran in there, cleaned up a couple squads. That is a great start for that team, but we also got to talk about Thunder Thighs because they did a huge amount of damage in Exiles. But also, quick note, we are going to do a quick restart of this broadcast. Yeah. We're going to do a BRB screen and get all of our technical issues, make sure they're all fixed up. It should be okay once we come back. We apologize for the issues early in game 1. We're going to make sure everything is sorted out for you guys. Stick around. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are sorry for the production issues, but everything is sorted out now. We are ready to get into game 2 in just a second. They are just loading up the lobby, but quickly, let's discuss that problematic game 1, because something interesting was that Marcus Apostle's team, IMQT, with QZ and the Darkbreakers, they won the game, but their score was tiny compared to that of Thunder Thighs, who did not win the match itself. So talk to us a little bit about how the scorecards break down here, Man of Class, and why that's the case.
Well, I mean, Thunder Thigh still got, I think, second or third place, like as a placement. I think got third place. So, they're still quite up there, and placements, it still matters for a little. But we're in the element. We believe that just hiding until you get the last placement isn't really a fun way to play. And it's also not really how Spellbreak is like. It's very aggressive, very fast paced, very much about about hitting the shots, about getting the combat in. So damage and kills are actually Exiles. They're actually weighted quite heavily compared to placement. And when you look at the scorecards of a team like IMQT, they have 2 Exiles each, and then they get some damage in, but in the end they don't really get a total score that leads up to that. They got a score of 365 right now. When you look at the second place team, that's already 459. First place team 475. So you can see that there's like about 120 point difference between those first, second, and then the third place, whereas IMQT is on. So you can see that in Blake and the playstyle, IMQT was being very patient, just shooting from range, and the only one that was really getting the damage out was QZ running the Frost offhand, getting those ice lances in, constantly hitting those shots. They were doing a good job of that, but if that's the only stuff you hit, you don't really get a lot of Exiles, you don't do a lot of other damage to the rest of your team, your numbers are just going to be lower.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good sign, though, for the qualifier overall in terms of competition level. If we have 3 teams right now still sitting at a fairly even standing, even though one of those teams took the dub, it is a nice little refresher compared to the first qualifier that I casted where UT was rolling through lobbies. And this one should be a little bit more balanced at the top here. We got all 3 of these teams competing with their different setups as well. As you mentioned, we had QZ with that Pyro, with the Ice offhand. Marcus, aka Apostle, opted to take Toxicologist for his squad. So we'll see if those class selections stick through the rest of these games. As I said, game 2 should be starting here in just a moment. We got currently Thunder Thighs at the head of the table. And if you want to check the scores for yourself, make sure you hit !scores in the Twitch chat, and you can follow at home to cheer on your favorite players. But I'm still feeling good about my predictions. We did talk about that little situation where IMQT didn't get that first place score, although they got the placement. I mean, it is still a good sign for my prediction. I'm hoping they're going to continue this type of damage, this type of placement, and maybe just fill in the damage. That's the part that they need to just complete a little bit more aggressive play, maybe dive into some of those back lines early. We'll see if it pays off for them, though.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't get engaged on, or you're not able to take the engage because you don't want to give up your positioning. Sometimes you have to just feel out the lobby a little bit, like who can we not take? What duels do we feel like today? And it's just game 1. You can use it as one of your 2 throwaway games. Out of the 8, you can delete 2, so you don't have to actually take the scores of those. Your 2 lowest will get taken out. Now, again, I don't think this will be one of their lowest ones, but if it is, then you already know they're going to be doing great in this tournament, the rest of it. So That's exciting to look forward to as we load into the training range before the lobby. Going to be going into games soon. And we look at the other teams, how have they been doing? Number one right now is indeed Thunder Thighs. They come out with a pretty good score. Had quite a few exiles on their board. It was about 10 total on their entire squad. Nice numbers of damage, about 2,600 across the board. And that's actually mirrored. The highest damage team was SAP, the late edition that we had in. They had a 2,800 damage score, 7 exiles. You can kind of see where that comes up, not in terms of just in placement, but also in terms of where those scores end up and what their total works out in. Of course, the rules are all just detailed in the Element Discord if you want to make sure that you know exactly where all the damage points come from, where the exiles come from, what the placement is worth. It's all available in there.
Yeah, and if you guys also want to check out the Element Discord itself, make sure you join and check out all the channels, get yourself in some of these events. But going into the next game, as you said, MOC, we are waiting in the landing, just trying to get into the game. And as we do that, I want to ask you a question about game style and preference of drop. We saw Mongfongo Bros. They started a late drop. They went somewhere passive and got the loot early. And we saw other teams like Thunder Thighs, who is now in first place, went for a very aggressive drop route. What is your opinion on should you go for a steamy drop, try to get an early fight, or do you prefer to secure loot?
So a thing that happens in Battle Royales a lot, and I've talked about it a few times in the past, is that teams will start having these preference spots where they drop. And at some point, when the competition field becomes, properly leveled out, everyone's kind of in the same spot, then there's this unspoken rule, and sometimes actually a written rule, that teams have a designated dropping spot. So there's no early game fighting going on. Now, we're not quite there yet in Spellbreak, but at some point it's going to happen. We saw it in scrims yesterday. There's one squad that just kept on dropping on the Halcyon area, on the Cathedral. And that might happen as well. We go further to these qualifiers, to these games for the finals. And at some point, it is becoming common culture within the competitive element community. Whether I like that or not, that's sort of besides the points, because, it's all personal preference. But in the end, it's all about where the community takes it.
I mean, also something I've noticed since that new recent patch with the knowledge potions is that the drops have changed just a little bit. Players now prioritize areas like Dust Pool just slightly more due to the fact that Dust Pool seems to spawn a lot of knowledge and safeguard potions. Other areas of the map that used to just have maybe 1 or 2 squads drop there kind of rarely are now a feature of the games. Almost every time there's one team trying to stretch to Dust Pool or stretch to another area that is known for knowledge potions. We know just how much difference those knowledge potions can make. I mean, if you're playing Toxicologist, you pick one of those up and suddenly you have 5 outbreaks available if you have a Shadow Step with you. That is game-changing. That changes the outcome of a fight right off the bat. So it's cool to see those changes incorporated with the teams themselves. You mentioned that decision between dropping early or late, and those knowledge potions really influence those choices.
Yeah, already Darkbreakers actually gets a kill. I think that's actually on player that's not with the tournament right now, not with the qualifier. So we'll get that early kill onto them. Going here to Drop Shade, Stretch Fox, and Etnisi. It's a lot of names that I'm not seeing on my sheets, but of course we haven't really dropped over the in-game names or the Discord names all the time, so it's a bit tricky to figure out who's who sometimes. And this duo is definitely not with us, because I don't think we have any duos signed up for Trios of Andui.
No, that would just be a shame if they actually slid in here and lost one of their teammates. That is not a tournament squad, but now we do see a tournament squad. This was the winners of the first game. For anybody just joining us now, I am QT with Darkbreakers, Kuzi, and Marcus, aka Apostle. So Marcus already has that Shadow Step. It is common rarity, not the best that he could find, but still a nice start. If a fight does break out, he will have that extra bit of mobility, that extra little bit of invisibility to get himself into new angles. And we'll see that this team is just definitely going for that passive route that we talked about, securing the loot early. And maybe that is the right strategy. After having a solid game one, they're not under any pressure to try to pull out some insane early game. They can just land safe, get their loot, and Darkbreakers can try to get his key build that we always see him whip out in these qualifiers.
Yeah, and I mean, you say they're not under a lot of pressure right now to really do anything different than they did before, but they kind of are. I mean, if the other two teams in Thunder Thighs and SAP keep playing the way they do, then this team of IMQT might not even get that top 1 placement anymore. That's a very real possibility when you look at what's going on right now. And at that point, you're going to be looking at, okay, so if we have 10 teams in playoffs, which teams are going to get invited with the extra points? If you're not in the top 2, that's a tricky one to get back into.
Yeah, for sure. Now we see Jay Tizzle just rolling around on the ground here in orb form. Hermaeus Mora is taking out the rest of his team, and this looks like the end of it for this squad. Hermaeus Mora should be the one to benefit for that, and for the team that is Speakers for the Dead. Quite an interesting team name, and they pay off right there, knocking down some of these opponents, and now they're going to benefit from that loot. Hermaeus Mora already has some insane items in his inventory, so he's going to definitely be feeling good about how this one is starting off. 31 people left in the game, and we're going to see this one move a little bit slower than game one, quite possibly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, game one didn't necessarily move that fast either. We really saw so many players still be left in the last circle, and that's really been a trend that's been evolving. I think the first time we did some practice scrims, it wasn't actually scrims. We were just going to pub lobbies, and they just clean out so fast. But in this case, you do see teams really wanting to be more private, wanting to get some more early loot in that's not as crowded. So yeah, great job here on SAP to get those events here onto. I think that's a Little Cat only Switch, and the last one kind of escapes me here. On the Switch? Yeah, on the Switch. Well, apparently they're playing on the Switch, which might not be the best choice according to some players, but I think that was a random duo. They're not actually with us in the qualifiers, so it's some easy exiles you pick up for free.
Yeah, SAP is definitely going to be happy about that, right? That's just some added bonuses to the scorecard as we continue to bounce around. You guys did see in chat, this game will have those loading screens. We apologize for that slight issue, but that's how we had to solve the production problems. So we are able to get back into the match itself. TV Fresh, this is another team we have in the tournament. DOTS is the squad, and it looks like they have definitely went for that dust pool route that we talked about. Not a lot of knowledge potions paying off there, unfortunately for them. Maybe they already got swept up, and we see Thunder Thighs, the team in first place right now representing EU. And we have to mention, for anybody who may be new to our events, the first 4 games of today are played on NA East, and the back 4 are played on EU to make 8 games total. So this squad should get an inherent buff in the second half of this event.
Yeah, imagine if they just do even better on NA than do on EU, or just about the same, and then EU just even buffs them more. Might have that team come in that we said, oh yeah, we were definitely expecting IMQT to win, and then you have the dark horses, the EU powerhouse come in. Would be very exciting for me, maybe not for you, but I would definitely like to see it happen. And they've got the loot already. The only thing that's a bit jarring is that white belt onto Moktola. I mean, you want a little bit, at least the blue, right? At least the blue.
Yeah, that would be much better for him. And I know that they're going to try to look for a fight in this mid-game scenario, so getting that belt upgrade is going to be huge for Moktola. But now we see DOTS once again rotating. This time they're leaving Dustpool. We saw them try to loot it up earlier. Didn't get too much to pay off, but DOTS, you see Frost is running Foresight. So a cool little hint at what we might see further in the tournament. We did talk about that talent a little bit in the pre-game, and it's cool to see Frost try to whip it out here. He's pinging the map like he sees an opponent, or maybe he's pinging for those Foresight achievements that he knows he's going to be getting a mana vault there. Never mind, it is an opponent, as they're going to jump right in though. DOTS now, right in the middle of the action, a stone slam face first into the opponent, but Frost is just getting popped, and his positioning is going to pay as he goes down to Hermaeus Mora with huge damage. It looks like DOTS is going to get fully exiled here, MOC. This is the end of the story in game 2.
And it's so strange to me that the build they're going for is then the Stone Shaper with the air offhand. So you have the Foresight, you have the Escapist, you have the Runic Fluency. Everything you do is sort of built on supporting your team from range. You get the mobility to run away, you have the mobility to relocate if you need to, you have the ability to, give your team the information. So you're not supposed to be the one that goes in front line and takes the damage. You're one that's supposed to be enabling your teammates to do so and shooting from range. So something like a Frost offhand or even a Frostborn as a class would have been way more suited to me. Maybe even a Toxicologist for the Vanishing Mist. It was a bit odd, but we do see some more of these support builds come in, and Finders Keepers, Foresight, and Thirsty are definitely the ones that seem to be the most, I don't know, the most fitting for a class like that, as far as we have supports. And I would like to see them maybe realize, the classes that we pick, the offense that we pick, kind of need to match what we want to do in our roles within the squad.
Yeah, and we see though Hermaeus Mora, I apologize, on Speakers for the Dead is having a great game in game 2. This could be a changing or turning point for this team on how they position themselves, as now they're going to try to push into this fight, just doing a little bit of damage with that lightning. Conduit's such a strong class in these games. You see he's got focus mana as well, so the burst is there. Taking some pot shots from deep, but none of them are going to connect. Gets out of the way of the boulder. Takes his teleport as well. Hermaeus Mora doing his best to apply pressure on this far side squad, as his team King rolls up with that supporting cavalry. Frith Knight, though, is just on the backside of this maze. You see SAP in the kill feed getting some drops. This one's onto Moktola and Darkbreakers getting a full squad wipe, it looks like. So IMQT just going off again in game 2 as the perspective will stay on speakers for the dead. You do see in the kill feed that Exile squad wipe has been confirmed, and now we're continuing this camera angle on Hermaeus Mora and his team as they look to just not pick this fight at all.
Yeah, that is Team Unknown eliminated from this lobby right now. SAP gonna try and follow up on something here. They're looking for some more targets. Of course, this is one of the teams to watch out for currently when you look at the scores. They're on second place right now behind the Thunder Thighs, but it does look like Thunder Thighs were under a lot of pressure earlier, so they might already be taking a good lead just by sheer placement on this round alone.
Yeah, that would be a nice indicator for them, but now we see SAP is just pushing back here, doesn't want to take this fight straight on. You see that their HP bars are not quite pristine. They might need a little bit more potions before they feel confident enough to take this fight. You're going to see them completely back off here. Doesn't want any of this action. SAP Imagine decides that he's just going to go back foot and wait it out, see if he can spot anybody while he runs away. Might look for some burst here. He is just posted around the corner. Does have that double boulder thanks to Stone Shaper, so the burst is very, very high on his build. If you're close range, you throw 2 boulders point blank and then Toxic Slap in the same animation, that's about 110 damage if you get the full burst, and that is massive into a fight. Now we see Doc with the rest of his team. His Millsy is exiled though, so one of the players is gone for Thunder Thighs, and now Doc just went too far in. He's going to get popped up. His opponents are just blowing him up. His teammates are in trouble as well. Moktola 1 is running as far as he can, but look at the boulder, hitting it right on. Darkbreakers takes down Doc, and Moktola will follow as well. Thunder Thighs goes down to IMQT. That's massive for this Game 2 situation.
Yeah, Thunder Thighs, of course, the number 1 team in terms of standings. Now that they're down and SAP and IMQT are still up, that actually means that there's going to be a very, very big possibility that they will be overtaken. Of course, you can still delete that second game. You think, oh, my placement wasn't good enough, but it all depends on how far you get in the other ones. On eighth exile in this lobby, we had Unknown on 9th Dots on number 12, actually Blood Drunk. They're really not doing so hot right now. And that is Thunder Thighs taking out a 7th or a 6th placement or something like that. That's roughly where they're up. It's 7th indeed. I'm going to see their stats coming up anytime soon. In the meantime, we see what else is going to happen in this game as the zone has been moving, and Rainbow Jake is actually far in the zone. It looks like they've already lost a player. Bill Cipher has been exiled. So that means they're going to try and hide in the zone as much as possible to not be eliminated. And we're going to go over to Frith Knight together with the Speakers of the Dead, Hermaeus Mora, and Dead Son. And honestly, they're in a pretty good spot right now. They have the high ground here, actually taking out a player over here. I think that's one of the 2 that we were just following before. That's indeed Rainbow Jake. That is the squad gone. Clash Clang. You're not going to be happy about that one, but at least your placement isn't as bad as some of the other teams. And this might be one of your better games in the long run. Some loot coming out for Frith Knight and squad. Speakers of the Dead currently doing fairly well. You look at their loot and you think, yeah, they can fight. They got that. And then you see SAP on the top of a tower in the Halcyon area, completely fine, nothing to worry about. Are in a little bit of an engagement. See some players run past. Tries to go for the Icelands, chooses to go for the Toxic Spray instead. And now Vorsen is going to relocate to the rest of their team because you do not want to be separated, especially in an area like this where you can just be chased away.
And look at this, Navorson must have had a knowledge potion at some point because he's got outbreaks up all over him. Look at all the 3s on. He's got 6 possible outbreak angles, and that's going to be massive in these fights. He did get away from that engagement, did decide to break that fortitude instead of taking the Ice Snipe with the Toxic Spray. You guys saw that nice little combo. So you can see that Navorson is feeling sharp right now. Decision-making is on point. As he does get jumped on, though, look at the burst. Somebody is trying to blow him up. We saw that combo from multiple players, but SAP just turns the fight completely, and that is IMQT going down. Marcus aka Apostle falls quick, and we see SAP try to take out the rest of the team. I can't believe that. It looked like SAP was on the back foot, but they absolutely blew up Marcus aka Apostle, and now the rest of this team is getting chased down. Navorson with the beautiful Ice Snipe, and he might just take this drop as well, man of class.
Oh, this drop is probably going to work at some point. Going to go look for the Icelands to just take them out of the sky. But right now, they have to still relocate them. Lost track of that player in their movement. We'll eventually find them again. I don't think that's going to be an issue. They know there's a down player over there. They do not want to have to get rezzed. It's going to be Navorsen in another 1v1 with another player. Actually, a 2v1 might have to worry about here. Got a bowler in the face, a few fireballs. It's now really low. It's going to go for that heal. Really needs to. This gets actually disrupted by Kukuzi. That is IMQT coming into this area right now. Now, Vorsen's team doesn't get... oh, it's actually Sap that takes them out. Kukuzi, Marcus Apostle, Darkbreakers, all gone, done and dusted. Nice fireballs. And that's SAP being able to res up, back up their player. That's going to be a 3-player advantage in the last one. And now we go to Primo squad. Primo, Wawa Wiwa, and Plato. They're in a very healthy position. Look at their loot. Look at their health bars. And only 2 other squads, of which one of them just had a very rough fight against IMQT. This could be the prime example and prime position for them and to take that game. Throwing some boulders around, getting some heal pots off. They have no reason to run. They have a beautiful structure around them. They're in the zone, can even take the high ground on this tower if they do so wish to do. And this is where a dexterity build with flight comes into play. You have some knowledge potions, so you actually have those extra tornadoes. You have some extra boulders because you're a stone shaper, and you're just going to be able to do so much damage and just scout from this high ground because you've got the mobility and the dexterity too. It's actually a pretty interesting build from Primo.
It is interesting, but you have to take on SAP. I know this build is great for flying up high, but can you get down and scrap? It doesn't look like Primo can do it. He's watching this opponent just not contesting the high ground. Now he's going to throw the wind. The decision-making is not coming out here from Mongo Fongo bros. They were just trying their best to take on SAP, but the biggest mistake, I think, from this MOC was SAP finished a close fight with IMQT, but they didn't get third-partied. Primo's team did not roll in to clean it up, and they let SAP completely reset. And now look at the result. SAP Imagine just blows up 2 players, and this is going to be the end of Primo's team. Monfongo bros just too patient. They waited too long, and now SAP is going to be in prime position to win this final circle. It looks like Primo's actually just going to let SAP ravage the low ground, and he's going to wait his turn to maybe try to flip this fight. Gets a nice break onto somebody. Don't know if that's SAP or the other team remaining, but look at this high ground contest. Primo Tastic will not let this go, as we have 3 teams left, but Primo's only got himself stuck here, man of class.
Yeah, the exiles aren't happening though. The thirst is not coming out, and if you're actually quite smart about your movement, you might be able to get one of your players back up. Both squads actually losing 2. It's just SAP versus Harmamura, and SAP takes down that one squad. That means that it's only 1 player alive. We all know who it is. It's Primo-tastic. They are having Sap Viper be on the ground right now, so they're not going to try and go for their res. They're trying to snipe this player out of the sky. Hit a beautiful ice lance there, does Navorsen. Going for the next one. Eventually, he's going to hit another one, but that's just going to take forever. In the meantime, they're going to maybe try and get that player back up. They know that Primo's looking down at them. They know they can throw the boulders down whenever they see this happen, and they must be spotting this out. Actually throwing it up. No, the res does come out. Sap Viper just gets eliminated straight away again, disrupted out of it, and that's finally the kill that comes out. You can't fly away forever, and eventually it's going to catch up to you because that circle is slowly moving away from that tower. Nicely played still from Primo to be alive for that long, but Sap showing their strength, showing their dominance, and they're definitely taking that first spot now. I have no doubt about that.
I mean, it is a good little result there from Primo-tastic. You got to find the silver lining. And man of class, he was so close to getting exiled, but just his ability to stay alive, maybe cheese the game a little bit with dexterity, but nonetheless, he gets that second placement, which is a huge increase in points. I shouldn't say huge. It is a significant increase in points. It's not massive, but every little point makes a difference. And you guys can see that the top 3 teams are really contesting each other right now. Getting those little bits of difference is huge in these games.
It really is. And obviously we're going to be looking out to the total scores later on, like see who got what. I'm QT doing a lot better in this game when it comes to their total score. Actually, I say that it's still 360. It's not quite the score that it was actually quite close to the score they got last game, which is fine. They still got the 6 exiles. They got a little bit more damage out on 2 players at least. But in the end, they're still not getting those top scores like Speakers for the Dead, for instance. Speakers for the Dead coming out with a 423 at this one, and it's looking quite wouldn't say it's quite dangerous, but it's definitely looking like as consistent as IMQT is, if they don't have enough breakout games or they have actually lower games coming out now and then the teams that do get those breakout games might score that much higher in total that they're going to be in trouble later on. Lucky for them, though, both Thunder Thighs and SAP, while they had great scores, they're not running away too much from it, especially Thunder Thighs getting eliminated on the 7th place. Didn't get the really an opportunity to get any exiles, got a little bit of damage out, but they really didn't get a great score on this one. But then you look at SAP, they really ran away with this one. 676 points. That's 200 more than was the top score in the last round. That's quite a bit of an increase.
And one thing I will say about the way that the score system works in these trio qualifiers, 6 out of 8 games, right? Everybody knows that. I say it 100 times a broadcast. But to keep in mind how that actually affects the game, if IMQT consistently gets 360 points, it seems great in a game-to-game situation, but you need to have a handful of pop-off games if you want to separate yourself from the rest of them. If you continue to just get these 360s, that is not good enough. You see SAP coming out with a 670 point score, 676, I apologize, and that is what you need. You need to have a handful of those pop-off games. You cannot keep playing scared as we get further into these matches. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, and it's not even that, right? Because you think about, okay, so they got 676 this time, but that means that in 2 games, they already doubled the score almost of IMQT. Like, they almost got double as many points in total. And that's the danger part, right? Where, like, IMQT, if you keep scoring those 360s, yeah, great, but then you don't have those lower games to eliminate, and you don't have the higher games to really bump up that score again. It's like you said, you need a few of those pop-up games, or at least, get some 400 plus scores going on, because the 400 plus is really where it's at, 450 maybe even, because that's what the teams are scoring right now that are winning, that are doing well. They've, at least SAP, and everyone else, I mean, they're all falling behind a little bit, but it's not looking terrible for them. See a lot of hundreds, a lot of 150s coming out, even a 31 from Thunder Thighs. Yeah, I mean, Thunder Thighs with 136 definitely didn't do that great, but again, 6 games, you can eliminate 2, and that will probably be one of them. And when we go to the next lobby, we can see what affects this. Are teams starting to play different? Are they starting to pay attention to their scores a little bit? Because after 2 games, you think, oh, we had 2 not great games, then you already know those are probably the ones that we want eliminated, and then you really got to go for it. You got to go get those damage and exile numbers up.
I mean, that's another great point you raised, right? I just talked about IMQT, and they need to have a couple pop-off games. But one thing to note is it is only game 2, and Thunder Thighs just had a game that needs to be thrown away. The bar is set now. If they have another game like that, those are 2 matches that cannot be included in the final 6 if they want to have a good score. On the other hand, IMQT still has the potential to pop off in some of these matches. They can still use the 360 as some solid base scores. They still have the chance to play aggressive, and if they do bad, throw out a couple games. So it's an interesting dynamic. And this is what I love about the trio events, is that these teams have to play around how they want to score. Remember that getting the top spot in the qualifier is crucial to bringing yourself into the finals. And that's where the big money is, MOC. The winner of this event is $30 USD, but that is change compared to what happens in the finals.
Buy a couple of pizzas, have a pizza party with your team. That's fine. It's all good, all fun and games, definitely. You can all definitely have a fun scrim night at least with that. But that's not where you can buy the real big bucks from. What if Element Proletariat all of a sudden starts releasing those Marla hoodies, that everyone's looking for, those beautiful, the holes in it, etc. Would be really cool. But a $30 a qualifier win is not going to get you there. It's those $1,500 that are on the line for the finals, sponsored by Proletariat. So that's what everyone's obviously looking out for. That's what these players are qualifying for. And super excited, of course, to see that come to fruition. Of course, right now, looking for the 3rd game in this 8-game qualifier, the 3rd qualifier overall as well. So a lot of 3s going on today.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're just waiting for that next match. We are waiting in the lobby, so it shouldn't be too much longer for you guys. But I want to hear if you got any predictions. We've seen 2 very different matches with very different results. I want to ask you what you think is going to happen in this game 3. I know it's a tough task as a caster to pull something out like, but you tell me what you got. I want to hear some predictions, some prophetic.
Okay. No, definitely. It's definitely true. And it's definitely valid as well. And so far, we've seen 4 teams that actually got those scores that are above that line that we expect from, like, as a baseline or as a top line. Those are Speakers for the Dead, Thunder Thighs, IMQT, and SAP. And that is quite exciting because that means that we've got 4 teams that are actually having quite a close race. And that also means that you don't have to watch like, oh, this team's probably going to win or it's only these teams against each other. No, it's a bigger group. It's almost half the entire qualifier. That's super exciting. And if you look at these first 2 games, now we're going to get into that rhythm where you can see multiple teams performing consistently. Maybe some other teams could still come up. Of course, they could still throw away 2 games. Maybe they just went for that warm-up strategy and afterwards they just start popping off. But right now, it does seem to be those 4 squads getting it up. And I'm just super excited to see what they're going to do. And I'm already happy that there's EU players in there. That's my game. Gotta go for the EU support.
100%. We did talk about how it switches over to EU servers as well, so they will hopefully get a little buff right there. We talked in length about the throwaway games, about strategy with score, and I think this is when they can afford to have a game like that last one where they get the 136. Not satisfactory at all, but at least it happens on the away server. Getting games like that on EU would be disastrous. We'll see if they can pull it out, though. Maybe get another pop-off game, because we know in game 1 they had an amazing score to start off, so it's looking good for Thighs. It is looking good for IMQT as well. I was being very critical about how passive they were in the first 2 matches, but I still have to give them credit for having consistent performances. Nothing disastrous, nothing to call home about. It's all still on the path to victory. And it looks like multiple teams have a route to the first place finish. That's what makes these so exciting, is when there's multiple contested avenues getting yourself to that first place.
Yeah, and everyone's always wondering, oh, why do you play so many games? You couldn't just play 1 game. Well, it's a battle royale. There's a lot of random number generator elements into this game, the RNG as we call it. And you can't always just say, oh, well, we just play 1 game and then it's done, because then those elements do actually come into play. That's why we try and play as many games as possible. We think 8, it is a lot, but it also feels like it's just enough. And it's not too many, but it's not too little in order to get a pretty consistent score out. That's why I also take away 2 games. Sometimes the RNG is really not in your favor, so try to level the playing field a bit. That's how we do that. And going into game number 3, it's actually happening now. The spectator is on, and let's see who they're on to start off with. It is going to be the EU squad, the Thunder Thighs. They're in the game right now. Millsy, Doc, and Moktola. That is beautiful. I'm wondering if Dr. Nut is not just a little bit jealous that there's someone called Doc in the game that we talk about more than him. Probably a little bit, right?
A little bit coming out there. But I mean, something interesting that needs to be pulled up and just notified right there was that when we started out, multiple members had Finders Keepers on the same team. And now we just saw another player with Finders Keepers as well. So it seems like this talent is becoming more prevalent in the matches as it goes further. More teams are realizing, just like Navorson in that game too, he had 6 outbreak stacks, and that was just game changing. Some of these teams are realizing how valuable it is to have an increased chance of getting those pots. And now we see all these other teams. This is one of my favorite squads that we see together right here. That was a PC, Xbox, and PS4 player coming together in the games. That is what it is all about in the Fusion tournament. Love to see those multiple consoles teaming up to take on the throne here.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to be looking out for the first fights that are going to take place. Already see something happening in the kill feed. It's actually, that looked like Clash Clan getting a few kills there onto a random streamer squad as well. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, they were not looking so hot in the earlier games, getting some early kills at Clash Clan, looking to be in a little bit of a better spot. Do need to start ramping up their scores, because both in the 150 roughly, that's all their averages right now. That's not what you want to go for if you see the top 4 right now. Fungal also gets taken out. Yeah, that's just... they're just on a tear right now. They just want to get as many kills as possible in these early zones, and they're going for it. They're looking super hungry. What a nice ice lance. Going for the epic chest is that player, but there is going to go down. As Rainbow Jake does get disrupted behind, and so does Bill Cypher. This is not a great place to be in if QZ, Darkbreakers, and Marcus Apostle are on your tail. Super Sloth is trying to get away, but Sergeant, it might be the end of the battle for you, the end of the war, because you're getting chased down. You're not doing any damage back. Your team is already exiled. This is going to be Clash Clan getting their first official guaranteed low placement game on the board out of the 3 they've had so far. And that's a good start. Again, we talk about all the time. They need to start getting some more damage, some exiles out. And it looks like they were looking for the fights, looking at those teleportation circles. Where are people landing? Let's land on top of them so we at least get an early fight and some early damage out. Looks exactly what they've been doing. QQZ under a little bit of pressure right now. They're mostly just chasing players. They're not really under pressure themselves. That's just reactionary damage. They're in control right now.
That was just disastrous, though. Now Darkbreakers gets another drop. Did you see that, ladies and gentlemen? The exile or the disrupt that happened before they got third-partied got picked up. So now Marcus's team can get a third exile. We actually saw those snipes that landed to start. A player got knocked down, but he got picked up, and then the first original team got third-partied by Marcus and his squad, and then Marcus got the opportunity to third-party another team that was losing that earlier fight. That is 5 kills to the Darkbreakers. Oh my God, in game 3, we talked about how they need a pop-off match, and I have never seen the stars align like this, man of class. This is their chance to just go crazy in game 3.
Yeah, it is their chance, but so far Darkbreakers has only managed to even up the exiles they got in the last rounds. They got a pretty good score out of that one, but they still need to get an actual pop-off game. So far, they're still just matching what they've done so far. If they get exiled now by just a random SAP show up or Thunder Thighs taking them out, then they're still not looking at a great placement. It's all still waiting where they go. We go to the Speakers of the Dead that are also in the race in that top 4 currently. Back over to IQT. It just keeps on going over. Like I said, I'm sorry for the loading screens. We know we had the multi-observer going, but unfortunately today the law of technology was not really with us. But we'll get that going for you in future events again. That's obviously what we're going for. Primotastic, Wawawiwa TV, and Play-Doh, though, they're going to try and do a little bit better than last game. They didn't do terribly. They can still get something going here. Second place last time around, 289 points. It's a little bit under that 350 mark that we sort of set as a baseline. And they are not really looking like they've done a lot. Just looting. Did get some loot out of that, though, but it's not the best place to be. Far away from all the action. They are close to the circle, so you actually will eventually come to them. But this Dust Bowl area does feel like a little bit of a wasteland, which is exactly what a desert area usually is, right?
Yeah, it is. And one thing I want to mention is the username right here, Wawawiwa TV. That has got to be one of my favorite usernames I've seen out here in the past couple weeks. Shout out to Wawawiwa for trying their best to maybe make a big play as you see them rotating through the map. Did go for that Fortitude selection, and you see Thunder Thighs, Moktola, and Doc going off for a couple kills. Hermaeus Mora will fall, it looks like. Just one more on the team to die, and that squad will get wiped. That's going to be massive for Thunder Thighs and horrible for Speakers for the Dead, who had a great game in game 2, but it looks like they might get mopped up. Now we pop over to SAP as they are closing in on another team. Looking at Viper now, he's trying to hit some kill shots, but the dash mechanics coming out from his opponent will help them break out just a little bit. Viper now back on the top ground, looking for those air shots, but can't quite land them. MOC, it looks like SAP is going to just clean this up, but it does get contested. Navorson gets disrupted, and it looks like this is breaking down in front of them, though. Viper will do a great job of anchoring this fight, and he will manage to finish it, but I think the third party might help as well.
Yeah, that is Blood Drunk they just took out. That's another squad eliminated from this game. Meanwhile, Speakers of the Dead indeed got a 9th place out of that one. You're going to be seeing whether they get some exiles and damage numbers onto that one. But so far, it's not looking great for them in terms of that. They were looking to maybe get up there. They had a great game last round, but this time around, not so much. Maybe just a throwaway. That's it happens sometimes. And SAP is just on point right now, getting all the exiles, getting the loot up, getting the damage in. Still healthy looking on the pots, healthy looking on the gauntlets. Might be overdue for some upgrades here and there, like purple belt, purple boots, etc. But they'll be fine. Eventually they'll get that loot, because the best loot is you get from the players that you face.
Yeah, and he does have one of those safeguard potions in his inventory as well. That can make a massive difference after taking a fight. And Viper has just been showing up to play in these games. A name that has really popped up recently in scrims. Really cool to see SAP come out and contest that first placement, as it looks like they're popping off for some of these matches. We got Doc with the Tempest choice here, and now Moktola is going to be the one to roll up onto this fight. I'm used to seeing Moktola on the Conduit, but he's actually rocking Pyro, and look at the damage just putting on the burst on this unsuspecting target who rolled up into the circle. Ooh, a nice air shot from deep from Moktola, and that should finish the kill if they can just not walk too deep in the storm. Interesting here from Moktola to just keep his eyes open, make sure that they don't walk into too much of an unsuspecting situation. Gonna make sure they're scouting out, but Moktola takes a frost shot so low now, and the EU boys are trying their best to just mop up this fight, but it looks like they're just getting banged from multiple angles. Moktola's down to just flesh, but he pops Navorson. This is SAP versus Thunder Thighs, and look at Moktola just dishing out the damage, getting the exile to go, and that will finish off the fight, MOC.
I think there's one more left, right? They didn't get the third, did
They did.
they?
That's a full wipe.
They
SAP
did.
just
Wow. SAP out. Yeah, I mean, they started off really well, but this time Thunder Thighs is trying to claw it back, and they really need to, though. I mean, they didn't have a great game last time around. Now they're in the last four squads at the very least. Got some exiles out, some damage out. Placement's looking pretty good. And yeah, I mean, there's a good chance they're going to get a good score out of this one, but so are Darkbreakers and Crew. Look at that. Another team down. Baba Weebo, Plato, and Primo Tastic. Those are the Mofongo boys taken out. And your prediction as like the, maybe the dark horse, the pocket strat is not really working out for your place.
Yeah, not at all, it looks like. But I mean, also the prediction that we had about IMQT coming out hard in these games, it looks like the real prediction was Darkbreakers coming out hard for that team.
Yeah.
He has 8 exiles to his name right now in game 3. Ladies and gentlemen, 8 exiles in a trio tournament. He is just funneling the kills right now, doing massive damage in this game, and we know that that's going to result in a major scorecard. Now we're looking at their team. Marcus, aka Apostle, has 2 to his name as well. IMQT is in such a dominant position looking at this game. Marcus has Fortitude locked up. That's the Trago build we've seen on the other day in scrims. Marcus is just in a prime position to deal damage from deep. We criticized this strategy a little bit in game 1 and 2, but once Darkbreakers has 8 kills, it seems a lot more appropriate to sit back and just farm out a bit of damage.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to find your rhythm a little bit, and it's definitely understandable that Darkbreakers is that kill guy. You know, he's the one that finishes everybody off, and that's because of the build they're running, right? If he goes in aggressive, gets the Stone Shaper off, the boulders, maybe he does CCs them a little bit with the wind, and it's got also quite a few knowledge potions on them, so they're really pumping the resources into Darkbreakers so they can keep fighting, they can keep getting the exiles, and he gets the longer range support from QZ and from Marcus Apostle. So it's a strat that works as a team. We talk about this sometimes. We say like, oh yeah, there might be more of a support build coming out at some point, or more of a actual role strat where you don't all try to go for the exiles, but you more support each other or one player into doing that. And Darkbreakers is really the one they're doing that with right now. The focus mana, the fervor, the recovery. It really is looking like one of those builds, one of those aggressive tanky builds that just keeps going, bursting the damage out. And with that, Tempest, they're able to do some close range flick shots as well. Get the tornado to CC people. The bowler is coming into Darkbreaker's face right now, but he's the Stone Shaper King. You cannot get away with getting Darkbreakers out. Not really sure who they're fighting right now. It does look it's going to be Quax on TV and Yo Kyle going down on the other side for the Thunder Thigh. So both squads are right now gunning for that other for another squad, not actually fighting at the same location. That means we might get a 1v1 between Thunder Thighs and IMQT to see who takes away the cake in this game.
Oh, this is what we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Man of Class just gave you guys that information, but this is definitely a 3v3. Thunder Thighs versus IMQT. And this is exactly what we love about trios, is the clean 3v3 action. We'll see who can take it. Maybe you guys in chat can give your predictions, chant your team, who's your favorite to win it, as we see Darkbreakers is going to engage this fight. Does get shocked out of the air, though. That's going to be massive for his entrance to this fight. Now he's going to get focus fired. It looks like Thunder Thighs is just turning the damage onto the tank. They want Darkbreakers, and he goes down. Moktola is coordinated with the rest of his team, dropping the Darkbreakers in just a split second. And now Marcus, aka Apostle, is in so much trouble. Marcus looks like he's going to fall, and it's just QZ left, but he has to 1v3. EU is out to play today as Thunder Thighs looks to take game 3, Man of Class.
It's a 2v1 still because Doc did go down. But yeah, I mean, as soon as Darkbreaker's gone, you can see it. Both Marcus and QQZ only on like 2 or 3 exiles. Darkbreaker's the 11 exiles. They will at least get a lot of that out of that one. They have a great score in terms of exiles and in terms of kills. Even in terms of placement, they don't quite get the win in that round. And that's okay. You don't always get the win as long as you get the points. And I definitely think they got the points on this one. If we look across the board now, we can score because of course it's a great game for both of those squads. Probably you can see how the scores are evening out. You can see where everything goes, and you know that if one squad hogs all the exiles, the others are really going to be struggling to get their point average up. So that's exactly what's happening here right now. It's super tricky for anyone but Thunder Thighs and IMQT to really get the points up. SAP, for instance, they only got 3 exiles. They're on 212, it looks like, which is not a great score, but luckily they've had those past 2 games to already get their average up. They're still on 400 plus on the average, maybe even on close to 500, and it's a really good place for them to be in, of course. So not out, and they can even delete this game if they need to, which means they'll probably still have a higher average than everybody else. So yeah, This game doesn't change everything, but Thunder Thighs coming in with the 484. That's one of those pop-off games they needed after the 136 to head last game. And other than that, I mean, we're just waiting until we can see what the actual score for IMQT is, because it looks like that's going to be a popper with all those exiles.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say right there. I mean, they did lose the 3v3 to end it, but this seems to be a theme in this today's event, Man of Class. The second place
Yeah.
team with a massive amount of exiles and score still gets a higher total score than the team who comes in first. I mean, Thunder Thighs there did have a great showing of damage. It was not just at the end. We're waiting for those scores to come up. You guys can hit exclamation mark scores in the Twitch chat if you want to check on how these teams are going for yourself. But that was an insane game, and it just seems like the diversity in these matches, the closeness of the scores, the intensity of the competition just continues to grow game after game. We are getting into game 4 after this short break. We're not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be me and Man of Class talking while we wait for the next match to start. But I wanted to remind you guys that we have one more match to make it 4, a halftime break. We go over to EU to play the final 4 games, and that is the end of the qualifier once we get through all of those matches. Just waiting for that game 4 to start right now. But anything else you want to talk to the viewers about in that match?
I mean, we're gonna have to start talking about the score that's gonna come out for IMQT, because it's not even done yet, and they're already over the 500 mark. Are they gonna have the top score of the day? Right now, it's 676, which is the highest one, and they have not broken that yet. 620, still a great score. Don't get me wrong, but it's not quite the top score of the day, which I was kind of expecting with that. But you can see it. They got 15 exiles. It's the exact same as SAP got last time, and it's all on Darkbreakers. 2 for Marcus, 2 for Kikuzi, and 11 for Darkbreakers. And SAP, you can see already, because of the way they score, where their exiles are coming from, it's more of a 2-1 builds. You know, they have 2 players that really go for the finish, and they have Eden or Imagine shooting more from range, being a bit more of that backline support. Whereas for IMQT, it really seems to be more of a 1-2 build, where you have one frontliner, it's Darkbreakers, that just gets all those finishes, and then Kukuzi and Marcus that are a bit more further back, both wrecking that Frostlands, both just a little bit more protective of the surroundings, maybe denying the third party, and that can sometimes lead to a bit lower scores overall. But in this game, definitely they popped off.
Yeah, definitely a major game for them. And it's so funny how we were just talking about how IMQT needs to have a game that separates them from the rest of the pack. Although they didn't win the first place, that would have been the cherry on the top for sure. That would have put them at above 676 to give them the highest scorecard of the day. Even though it didn't make that happen, it was still one of those games that can now be put on the belt, secured in there. That is definitely not something that's going to be taken lightly as we get into the further matches and all the scorecards get added up. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that the first place team also gets $30. It is a little bit of change, but it's significant enough to take that home, take it to the bank, buy some ice cream, and have a nice night.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing which team is going to go out for that one, because it's still a pretty close race, especially if you take into account that some scores can still be taken away because of that 6-8 game. We might have to wait until all the scores are tallied and those games are taken away before we actually know who's going to win. And that's super exciting. I mean, who knows? Maybe IMQT just happens to drop at the same place that SAP or Thunder Thighs drop. They're taken out and they get like a trash game. They're just thrown away straight away. And then we look at this completely the other direction. We're going to be dropping into the map anytime now, where you see our observers making sure they get exiled so they can spectate the rest of the lobby. That's how we do this. Of course, otherwise won't be able to bring that. I think the only other way to do it is have everyone stream their POV to us. But I think that will be a little bit straining on everyone's PCs a bit too much. So let's see where we go out here with game 4. Last time before halftime, last NA game. This is really actually a really good place for Thunder Thighs to still pick up a lot of points. I mean, they actually picked up quite a few points in the first 3 games so far. Game 2, maybe not so much. But if they can have a pop-off game in game 4 and then move over to EU and do even better because of the ping difference, that would be insane. Because so far, they're definitely going head-to-head with these squads.
Yeah, for sure. And now we see already IMQT is off to an early start in the kill feed. They're dropping off some opponents to the very beginning of the drop. Getting over to Primo's team now. Wawa Weewa finishes off Blue's champ, and this looks like it's going to be a squad wipe. Man of Class, I'm going to throw it to you for just a minute. I got to quickly fix something on my technical side, and you take this away, my friend.
It's going to be completely fine, but that is indeed also Thunder Thighs taking in the early kill. Yokal Quacks on Twitch and All Pro will go down. That means that's another early finish for Unknown. They're really not doing so hot. I think at this point, they're essentially out of the running after 4 games with sub 100 points. So that's unfortunate for them. That does mean that we're going to have a little bit of an easier spread into looking which teams still have a chance. Looking at Marcus, got 1 kill. I think they all probably have 1 exile. Maybe Darkbreakers has got 2 and QQZ's got 1. Early drop, and you do see that Fortify coming out. Marcus definitely running more of that support build, Runic Fluency with the Fortitude and the Thirsty, making sure they can actually heal up the rest of their team when they take pots, and also be super mobile with the Runic Fluency, the Dash Rune, the Vanishing Mist, and their Toxicologist, and then the Fortitude just for that extra little bit of protection, for the extra counter burst, maybe the burst they want to take, and the Knowledge Potions are already flopping. Marcus has got 2, might just be carrying those for the rest of their team, but this would be insane if they can get another few, because that is a lot of sorcery charges.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's going to be massive for him. He is on that Toxicologist, and this seems like something that is just trend. Whenever you find a knowledge potion for your team, you immediately funnel it onto the Toxicologist. I mean, it is just one of the most beneficial classes for those knowledge potions. The other one I can think of would be that Stone Shaper. I mean, the Boulder Burst is so significant. Nonetheless, Marcus will be the recipient of these potions. We'll see if he can make a big difference. We know that Marcus is one of those playmakers on the team. Darkbreakers had a massive game last match, but Marcus is always somebody to watch out for.
Definitely is, and it's always tricky to find. Darkbreakers actually didn't get any exiles yet. That's interesting. It's QZ that's probably got 2. They're in another fight right now. Darkbreakers, Marcus Apostle, and QQZ. And could they already be in trouble here? It doesn't look like it, as the fireballs are hitting. Even the air shot from QZ. That was a beautiful one. Gets another fireball. Disrupt Sabaku Sensha. That's unfortunate for them that they haven't been doing so hot today yet, and it doesn't look like their luck streak is going to get any better. Yeah, the firewalls is going to go after the player. I think they might have actually used an Invis or a Teleport Room. It wasn't even an Invis rune, but they were spotted out. Nice Boulder and Fireball on top of that. That's another Disrupt. K. Jordan out, and that is just the last player left on that squad. Unfortunately, it's another exile, another deletion coming out here for, I think that is... I can't figure out which squad this is. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure it out on my sheet here on the side. It's the money team. That's the money team. I found them indeed. It's a bit tricky, right? So everyone on the sheet is named by their Discord name, and then their in-game is sometimes wildly different, but there's always that one player that has roughly the same name. So you have to cross-reference it, but eventually you're able to find them.
Yeah, K. Jordan was the cross-reference. His name was on the score sheet. That's how we just did that deduction right there. But that is team money team, going down early. Now we see SAP, one of the teams leading the charges in these matches, into a fight. This could be a huge third party, actually. It looks like multiple members are surrounding this area. SAP Viper will go for the pop, but he gets interrupted. Shockwave comes down, hits him down to half HP. Now SAP Viper doing his best to reposition. He does have Vigor Recovery. We've seen big discussions about Vigor Recovery as a set of talents, and now we see SAP Viper trying to make use of it. Throws it down, but takes some damage himself from the back end. Nice use of Firefly through a fire puddle, takes down Dead Sun with the air shot, and just goes immediately for the exile. SAP Viper has no fear about trying to hold down that F key and finish off the kill.
Speakers for the Dead being taken out right there. It's also actually Dead Sun and Frith Knight. They're not even on the same team, are they? Oh, they actually are. Never mind. That's indeed Speakers for the Dead taken out. And that's unfortunate for them. They didn't have a great game last time around, and now taking another one out. That's not how you want to go into halftime with already potentially having 2 throwaway games. SAP doing a lot better though than they did last round. Only 212 points there, and now already looking at a few exiles, better placements, quite a bit of damage coming out from that. This is it's going to be a good one for them. Now we swap over to the Thunder Thighs. They're also looking pretty good. Got some exiles onto Moktola. I think someone else already got a few as well. And in the kill feed so far, it's not really looking that busy. A lot of 24 players in the lobby, going all the way over to the east of the map, actually, close to Ruby Grove, the Saw Edge Mountains. It's probably the wrong name, but I got close, I think. roughly.
Something like that. I mean, we got Moxhola
Yeah,
1, though.
right.
Look at his scrolls right now. Not only does he have 3 kills, but he has 3 points on every single one of his talent selections. Moxhola 1 is
Yeah.
absolutely farmed up in this game. We'll see if he can make a difference when we get to the later stages. We did see that team of Thunder Thighs taking a big W in Game 3. This is Game 4, seeing if they can follow that up. But SAP is moving immediately into the scrap now, throwing out some shockwaves, but none of them are going to connect. Such an interesting build, by the way. Conduit with that focused mana. We see that so often on the Conduit class. The damage is immense, as now SAP Imagine is going to try to get a shockwave to land. Seems like he lost the tracking on where his opponent went. SAP is now just following that call to just move back and slowly engage into this fight. Navorson is going to be the one to lead it, as it looks like he actually just popped back with the team. This is such a patient approach from Team SAP into this mid-game fight.
Yeah, in the meantime, you do see the IMQT taking down another squad that is unfortunately blood drunk, but I think they're also getting some kills here on the Momofunko Bros. They're disrupting them right now. When the Halcyon area, we see SAP fight. That's the one we're really focusing on. And it's also actually going to be, wow, Sap being taken down by Marcus. So that is IMQT versus Sap right now. And that's a very exciting one because their team's fighting for the top and they're going to get taken out. That's SAP taking an L in this one so far, while Thunder Thighs are still online. They're still in this, and it's once again Darkbreakers with 4 exiles, but there is the Disrupt almost coming out of the Darkbreakers, and a lot of pressure. Not quite sure which this players is. I don't think this is Thunder Thighs. If it is, I would be very surprised because I think they were in a different area for Halcyon, and the fact that they're still fighting in this area, it means it's the same thing we always say, Halcyon, it is just the battleground. It's where everyone kind of wants to be, and it turns out it is indeed Moktola that goes down first, so the Thunder Thighs on a even ground here, trying to be. Millsy will go down too. Thunder Thighs, under so much pressure, it's a 1v3, and that's not going to go well for you when they chase you down with those Tempest wind shears. It's going to be amazing for Darkbreakers to clean this up. Almost got it. Trying to get through here. The firewall almost blocking them off. And the recovery is online there for the last player. Doc actually trying to get away from this one. It's not going to work. Eventually, Darkbreakers is going to get you. With all this mobility, the invisibility, it's so tricky to actually get on top of this player. And then the Tempest is just getting another tornado. There's no way you're going to be able to find this, but you have the Flight Rune. They were not counting on that. Darkbreakers gets Doc out. That is the Thunder Thighs gone. And only with all that skirmish going on, only one other squad and a loose player left. This is a poppin' lobby.
Yeah, it is. And Darkbreakers did so much damage in that fight. Oh my goodness. You saw from the very start, he took Millsy down to flesh in a half second, and then he was the one who was able to push up onto Doc. That was a very, very great fight from SK the Darkbreakers, showing up for his squadron, making it only 6 players remaining. And out of all the circles we've seen, this is by far the biggest. It looks like this lobby has moved the fastest in terms of total kills. We just have 7 players left, and there's a lot of space to work with. Bouncing over, though, we see the rest of I'm a QT, and we're going to see who they're going to face off against in the final circle. It looks like that will be Super Sloth and his team. We'll see if they can make a difference, trying to challenge the #1 team right now. But it is a close #1 because Thunder Thighs, although they went down there, their scores are very contested. I know that the Darkbreakers is having another pop-off game, but it does look like it might come down to the 2-team competition to take us to the end here.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so far, MQT, I mean, we were talking about it before the game started. We expected them to do well, but they get a bit of a mild start. And now that we look at actually the Clash Clang, Clash Clang, it's such a weird name. You would think it's Clash Clan, but no, it's Clash Clang. They're in the race to maybe still take this game away. Don't really have I've seen in the kill feed a lot. It probably means that they don't have a lot of exiles and damage going on, and that's not great for their score. But at least their placement will probably crank it up a little bit, and they're gonna have to work for it because a 3v3 and then a loose player somewhere else. That's not a fun situation to be in if you're playing against IQT.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely not ideal. We see Super Sloth now with that Tempest just trying to keep his feet moving, trying to get himself to these legendary items. He will pick up the fire, but this is just not ideal. Like you said, they are going to get pushed hard by AmaQT, I'm assuming. They might just try to find that last player. This would be the ideal situation for this team, is if they can find the one straggler before they have to take on AmaQT, getting up a couple more points, but it doesn't look like that's how it's going to go. You see them getting hit from behind and from the front. I'm a QT just drilling Sergeant Super Sloth. Oh my God, he's up in the air and he's just playing duck hunt as Marcus, aka Postal, says pull and snipes him out of the air in the middle right there. Marcus is going to look to just clean up the rest of this fight as we see Bill Cipher doing the best that he can, but Farrar will take him down. So Farrar was the final straggler, and now it's just Rainbow Jake versus the rest of I'm a QT, and he will fall. That looks surgical, man of classes. We see the end of game 4. That'll be the last one before we take a small break. But let's quickly break down what we saw in that game itself.
I mean, we've just been seeing IMQT being unleashed, especially in these last 2 games. They're getting the points racked up. I don't think they had quite the same amount of exiles they had in the last game. They're still getting first place. They're still getting the damage out. They're still getting all of that happening for them. So IMQT probably looking pretty good to be in first place right now. But yeah, Thunder Thighs still, in contest for something. Still with SAP. Speakers of the Dead, they're dropping off a little bit. So we might only have a 3-horse race left. We're going to, of course, go over it a little bit in the break so we can come back to you and seeing, where our predictions, where our graphs going, so to speak. Because technically speaking, only 2 of these games are relevant. 2 of the other ones might be thrown away, and that might get us to different final scores. But we'll see what happens for that after the break plays, because for now, it's still a close race.
Yeah, for sure. And this is definitely one of the most exciting qualifiers we've seen for the Fusion event. Very close, very tight. It is only the 3rd, so I can't be making those types of claims this early. Nonetheless, exciting to see, like
Definitely
you said, a 3-horse race. This will come down to it. We've talked about it multiple times before, but Thunder Thighs is from EU, so they get an inherent little buff once we move over to the second half set of games, which are all played on EU Central. Before we get into that, though, we need to take a little break. Should be about 10 minutes, I believe, and then we will be right back to wrap up the rest of the event. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here and sticking with us through all of these matches. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed that short little halftime break. We now have 4 more games to wrap up the rest of the event. These are all going to be played on EU. But let's quickly break down the 4 games that we've seen so far. Man of class, how is the score table looking for anybody who hasn't checked it themselves?
Look, score tables, they're annoying to check. It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of positions. I get it, but that's why we're here. We're here to actually explain to you what's happening behind the scenes in the games and what the result of that is. And right now, it's a fairly convincing lead for IMQT. So they're currently on a total score of 2,042 points, with the second place in SAP being on 1,573. That's almost a 500-point lead. But after that, gets a little bit closer. Third place, 1,356 for Thunder Thighs, meaning that they're actually not that far behind. And after that, we really have to start looking, who's the next closest. It is Mofongo Bros. After that, on the 5th place, Speakers for the Dead. And then you get to the lower end of things. You got Clash Clang, Blood Drunk, Unknown, a Money Team, and a team that has actually already dropped out of this one, unfortunately, has been Dots. So they're going to be finishing last if, you can call it a finish if you don't actually complete all 8 games. So that's where we're at right now. It's a very convincingly for IMQT. But of course, we've seen that with some throwaway games, so if you have 2 of those, then those scores might actually not be as representative of where they're actually going to be at the end. The 500-point lead sounds like a lot, but if you can take away some 100 games versus, MQT, maybe you have to take away some 300-point games, that gap closes really fast.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's where it's going to get very interesting, right? Because SAP has already had 1 game that is pretty much a guaranteed throwaway. And they've also had 2 games that were quite heavy pop-offs. So like you said, those scores don't quite fully represent how they line up in the 1, 2, 3 placement. The same story is true for Thunder Thighs. I mean, they had 1 game that was a complete throwaway, 150 points or less. Got to get that one out of the table. But they also had a bunch of games that are going to be in there for the final 6. So we'll see exactly how it all balances out. IMQT has not really had any games that I would call throwaways as of yet. We'll see if they can keep up this consistent play. We did talk about how this tournament format really rewards consistent play. If you can get a bunch of games that are at a good level no matter what, and the throwaway bar is really high, then you're really setting yourself up for victory. They're setting themselves up not just to come into the qualifier and take a shot at the title. They're setting themselves up to win the title. I mean, this is some very great trio play that we're seeing.
It's convincing gameplay as well, and you really can clearly see that they have a game plan for it as well. It's not just that, oh, they're popping off or they're getting the shots. No, no, no. They're communicating as a team, rotating, doing the 3v1 strategy. You focus one player down as a unit, which is always faster than all going for your 1v1s. And their builds really complement that as well. If Darkbreaker's really frontlining with that Stone Shaper, and then both Marcus on the distance with the Toxicologist usually, and the Offhand Frost, and the other side you have the Offhand Frost coming out with the Pyromancer for the last player. I keep blanking on that name, but it keeps being a different one. This time's QQZ that I'm blanking on. So yeah, they really are playing that team strat really well, fulfilling different roles within their squad. And we haven't seen that from a lot of teams just yet. They're really the ones that are properly putting themselves in that position in terms of like builds. So you can actually see this is where they're supposed to be playing with these talents, with these classes. And that is really what's defining like higher level Spellbreak right now, that communication and that strategy in terms of what we would do as a squad.
I mean, I definitely think that point you made about communication being a central part of competitive Spellbreak. I mean, that is key. We have seen some of these fights. I mean, the fight that IMQT lost at the end of the game, 3v3 situation versus Thunder Thighs, that fight was lost because of communication difference. Thunder Thighs targeted Darkbreakers, blew him up in like 2 seconds. Once your frontliner is down like that, it's very hard to pick a 3v3. It's so interesting to see how this communication really plays out. And it's also something that you can see when we're watching these games from a viewer perspective, from the showcaster perspective. You can really imagine these players making calls, deciding the play, deciding who to fight first. And that's what makes the difference. Blowing up a target in Spellbreak is huge.
And of course, now you can start wondering, so what does communication in Spellbreak actually sound like? And I mean, we could give you examples like what things they could call, but the best example of, getting actual comms in and finding out what's being talked about, how they're saying things, what are shorter names for something, go watch these people when they stream. We know that Marcus streams a lot. You have it from Kamsky, T-Foul, all these players, they actually get their own streams out. They stream their scrims. They stream a lot of what they do. And in those clips that they also share, you can clearly hear their comms going on. You can understand what is it they yell, what's their strategy behind this, what is what's going on, and how can I be doing better in terms of communication. So learn from others. Don't just think, oh, I can figure it out for myself. You can, but you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these teams are giving you guys some perfect examples on how to start your trio off. I do think one thing about IMQT that makes them different, though, is the way that they play the tank role. I mean, Darkbreakers is one of the only Stone Shapers I've personally seen who goes for wind offhand every single game. We've seen some amazing Stone Shaper players like Borsellino and Megaverse, but those two never really lean into the wind offhand. And that has been a facet of Darkbreaker's play since the beginning of his comp career. It's very interesting to see how that plays into their composition specifically, considering that we see SAP Imagine running the Stone Shaper as well for his team, but it comes out in a much different way due to build difference.
Yeah, and we're going to be going into Game 5. First game on the EU servers in the second half, and it's going to indeed be a very, very heavy presence towards the southeast of the map. A lot of teleportation circles there, a few up to Dust Bowl, but that means there's a lot of the map that's going to be either unexplored or everyone's going to have to be rotating from or to. And that's always super exciting. That means that rotations might matter a lot more in this particular game and in some others where the teleportation circles are a bit more spread out. And that's already exciting to think about. We're going to immediately a very quick engage here for T-Jizzle, mush the lead, and Creed it. I don't know who they're fighting exactly, but it might actually be... No, it's not. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. I mean, every time you see Speakers of the Dead, at least getting a disruption on the monster, that will be an early kill. And oh, look at that. They've got the wolf split up, so they can see that player healing. They're going to try and punish this. J Tizzle on a very good trajectory here to get that. A Chrono Rune comes out from the enemy player, but they're able to disrupt them before it goes off, before the recall happens. Nicely done to focus. They do get stomped on by Thick Camille. J Tizzle now trying to run away so that the rest of their team can clean this fight up. It's still a 2v2, I'm fairly certain. Might be 2v1 even. And I think that Gridic and Noah the Elites are going to be fine cleaning this one up together. This is not going to be a problem. They just have to finally get on top of this player with the gauntlets they have. I think that's still a noodle that's on Noah right there. And are they going to go for the res? No, it doesn't look quite like it. But they really cannot get the damage down right now, Blaze. It's taking forever.
And this is a dangerous situation to be in. You cannot take this long for a fight. You know how the third parties come out in these competitive lobbies, and this is just taking way too long. Greedic is full HP, full armor, and he's not even getting up in the face close enough. Noah the Elite is so low as well. This fight could completely turn onto this team. It does look like they might go for the res now. Jay Tizzle will get picked up by Noah the Elite, but he gets interrupted, and this fight has just been extended for much too long. Looking at the kill feed, Yokale gets a kill as well, so that is a nice little drop for Team Unknown at the beginning of this game. But Thick Camille gets a kill onto Noah the Elite, and this is almost certainly going to be the end of this team's day. In the kill feed, SAP Viper falls to Primo Tastic, so does Navorson, so it looks like SAP is getting pressured, but the pressure continues to outload onto this team as well. Jay Tizzle cannot get picked up to save his life, and that is going to be the end of his timer. It looks like his teammate won't be able to find him again within 8 seconds. But look at this, MOC. SAP went down in the kill feed, so that is a major turning point. That is a throwaway game for sure for SAP, and they're running out of throwaways.
Yeah, I don't think they have many left anymore. They already had a 136 game earlier on out of a set under thighs. Well, they also had a lower game earlier on. And this cannot be the one where they keep that going. Unfortunately, bit of a problem for them. We do see him, Hermeos Mora take out Plato. Frith Knight takes down Wawa Wee TV. So that's actually a good comeback coming back into it for them on the side of Speakers for the Dead, potentially. We're going to go straight onto it, and it actually looks like there may be a little bit more trouble on the side of Primo Tastic. This was the squad that took out Sap, so they got third-partied straight away after. That must have been what happened, and they're just going to get eliminated. That is another time where the Monfongo bros don't get as far as they maybe would have been expected to, and that means that there's so many newer names, newer players that we don't see that often in the scrims come out that are getting quite a good placement right now. It's going to be Speakers for the Dead picking up a squad kill there, and that's exactly what they need to start off this game.
Yeah, that's going to be massive for them. I mean, we've seen Hermeus Mora. He's a very great player in the late game situations on that conduit once he can get scaled up. But the question is, can he make it that far? Now we see that this is him in prime position to do so. He has 3 exiles to his name. His teammates are going through it. And look at the kill feed. Thunder Thighs taking down somebody on IMQT. That is Millsy with a drop onto Marcus. And if this fight goes the way of Thunder Thighs, IMQT will finally be forced to throw one of their games away. That is what you have to do, is put more and more pressure onto these opening teams, and luckily we're going to get a good view of it. Darkbreakers is just trying his best to deal some damage onto these outside players. The lightning damage is coming down towards him, and look at this. They're collapsing onto Darkbreakers, but he gets off the pot just in time, and look at the damage they're unleashing onto the players running into them. QZ's still quite healthy, but he will drop Doc as well, and Darkbreakers falls, but he gets a beautiful shockwave to break through, and that will be the kill. The difference maker right there was Darkbreakers landing the shockwave right before going down.
When we start talking about the end of this qualifiers, this might very well be the game that decided that the Thunder Thighs doesn't get as great of a placement as IMQT does, because both Sap and Thunder Thighs are out now. IMQT is still in. Every single fight they take, every single damage point, every single exile, every single placement point is all gonna just grow their lead for that number 2 and 3, and that's so scary to think about when there's only 3 more games to go. And yes, you can throw away 2 games, but IMQT still doesn't have a really clear throwaway game. They're just consistently performing right now.
If your lowest game, if your throwaway is 360 points, as it might be for these players in IMQT, considering they haven't had a worse game yet, I mean, that is just right there a testament to the performance that they've been pulling out in qualifier number 3. This team has been having a fantastic showing, and the leader of that showing seems to be the Darkbreaker so far. He's been having some pop-off games just consistently, putting in work for his team. As you see QZ now at the front side trying to take some damage, and Darkbreakers will roll in for the burst. Marcus aka Postal gets low, but his team is just here to follow it up. Look at the shockwave timing. One of the things that Darkbreakers does so well, right when the toes tap the ground, he smashes it and slams that huge damage in onto his opponent. QZ will get the drop onto one of these players, and this looks like a certainty for the kills.
Yeah, this is not going to go on for longer. Nice movement there for Darkbreakers to go after that player. Gets a nice wind shear into their behind. And Thick Camille, who we saw being actually quite annoying to that previous squad in the southwest of the map. They're now finally eliminated out of this lobby. We'll be seeing if QQZ, Marcus Apostle, and Darkbreakers can actually make it to that final circle, but so far, nothing seems to be able to stop them. It hasn't been for a while now. I think Marcus actually took a bit of damage there. Maybe they get third-partied again, but no, Marcus just gets the loot and heal back up.
Yeah, they will be safe to move on through to the next fights, and that's going to be bad news for the rest of the lobby. I mean, IMQT already has such a significant lead, and it looks like they're just trying to extend it as far as possible. Now we got Quakes on Twitch. We're going to bounce off of him. Not too much camera view for him to soak up as we get back to Greedic. So it looks like this team did survive that awkward early engagement we did see. It took so long, but they finally pulled through. 18 people left in the game, and this team will be one of those representing in the final circle. Seeing how it seems to be moving, the final circle will likely be played in some high ground terrain, which is a great sign for anybody rocking that with that frost offhand. But it looks like this team is just going to have to make do with what they got. I mean, Greedic's got that Stone Shaper, not always the best for these high cliffs, crazy terrain environments, but you can make it work, and we'll see if Greedic can do it.
Yeah, and of course, Greedic rocking a pretty good artifact there on the back. Got that beautiful blood knife. I think it's still a pretty cool one that they added. It's honestly just looking very, very epic, as you could say. They're still not really that looted, though. I mean, you have some good gauntlets coming out there, but if you look at the boots, for instance, green and a white one on Greedic and Noah the Elite, it's not something that's ideal, and that just shows how much they've had to run, how much they've had to do instead of loot. Now they're going to go for a fight here. A lot of conduit damage already coming out on the enemy team. They haven't taken any. That's the first boulder that comes into G-Tizzle. But it's going to be Greedic actually chasing down a player here. Let's see what they end up with as a final damage number, if they can actually take out someone. No exiles, no disrupts just yet. And this high ground position has been taken over by the opposing squad. Maybe going a bit too deep there to try and get those kills. And now they're in a disadvantaged position, because you know what they say, if you have the high ground, you're going to probably win the fight there. It's going to not be as easy, though, for either team. It actually looks like their opponents are trying to get some heals off, trying to get some pots. And there's the damage from range. Conduit versus Conduit. The lightning bolts are flying, and there is the engage. Doesn't quite do anything, and the shock might actually have gone onto Noah instead of anyone else for Greedic. And that's not what you want to be seeing. Greedic now trying to find some more shots here on their opponent, but they're just duking them out. There's not actually an engage happening. It's just a lot of poke from range.
And this is a weird little situation. I mean, we see that this team is boxed in almost between two different squads. It does look like Greedic will get away now, but for a half second, they were about to get pinched in from two different angles. That would have been disastrous. They do manage to survive, and now we see Yokale representing Team Unknown, finally making themselves known in the final circle here. We'll see if they can get some work done. Yokale is with the rest of his squad. Quakes on Twitch has some legendary boots. It looks like the whole team has solid loot. Just have to try to make the difference in the actual gameplay. No matter what your loot is, you're going to have to deal with the Darkbreakers at some point. Even if you got legendaries, that man deals big damage. So we'll see if Yokale can make a huge play here to secure their first win. That would be massive for Team Unknown. And it would also throw a bit of a wrench into IMQT, because right now it looks like IMQT is in prime position to take this qualifying dub, as we see this team just roll off the high ground. They are afraid to engage. Team Unknown wants none of this early action, MOC.
No, they really do not. I mean, sometimes you just got to dodge it in order to stay alive, in order to get some pots back off. And it's really tricky that they're not really able to do anything with it right now. It's... Oh, there they go. There's a full engage coming out. A lot of toxic clouds, mostly a lot of shockwaves. It's quite interesting how the shockwave has come so much back, especially in the team environment. J-Tizzle goes down, so does Greedic. This is not going to be the survival coming out. That might actually be another squad that goes down here to the Speakers of the Dead. That's on Hermoyes getting those last two kills, while you also see Burning Bird, Mirror, and someone else falling in that kill feed to the IMQT squad. Speakers of the Dead get that finish off. That means there's only 4 squads in this lobby left. It's looking pretty good, though, for Speakers of the Dead. They do have the Exiles. Might actually get a good score out of this game, regardless of placement anyways.
Yeah, I mean, they are having a fantastic match here. We see Dead Sun now representing that team you're talking about, seeing if he can get something done, but he has taken a massive amount of damage from the outside lightning. Darkbreakers gets the drop onto Quakes, and now Dead Sun will fall as well. This is just collapsing in front as all these teams are meeting up on this low side, trying to take the fight. Darkbreakers does get the disrupt as well. Sorry, QZ took the secure. But IMQT is definitely happy with how this is folding out in front of them. Look at the scrolls that Darkbreakers has. He's fully read up other than one focused mana point. He's going to do the due diligence of just trying to finish off all these exiles, get those numbers a little bit lower. We're about to hit single digits as well, and IMQT is definitely happy with how it's playing out here. They can make a move to win yet another game and save their throwaways even further, Man of Class. They haven't had a single game that is a clear toss away. They continue this consistent play.
And at this point, you might even start wondering, like, can you actually mathematically come back if you're the other teams? And the only way that might actually happen at this stage is just if they have three away games in a row, just 3 games where they drop out at the first, get like under 100 points, and then there's a really good chance. Of course, they won't get that first place anymore. But at this stage, they keep performing even mildly like they are doing right now. It's going to be a fairly convincing number 1 spot in this qualifier. Of course, it's not over before till it's over. It's looking really good for IMQT, especially if you can keep getting the exiles like they're doing right now. Rainbow Jake gets disrupted. Darkbreakers is going to get another exile. Now he's Thirst here on the Bill Cyper. Another squad partially eliminated, and it's just getting easier and easier with every game they play, especially when those higher scoring squads are already out of the play.
Yeah, they're already knocked out here, so it's just IMQT representing those top 3 squads, and they are just making that score difference known. Hermaeus Moso will fall to a nicely timed shockwave from the Darkbreakers. His legendary loot is paying off in dividends right now as he deals this massive damage, landing another shockwave, cracking armor onto this opponent. That will be another drop. Dead Sun from the same team as Hermaeus Moso will fall, and Darkbreakers just not stopping. 8 people left in the game, and he's going to fly right into your face, my friend, as he has no fear, sees this opponent, trades with him evenly, dodges the shockwave, and now this is a Stone Shaper versus Stone Shaper battle, but his teammates are the ones backing him up clearly here. Darkbreakers continues this damage, and I would love to see his final damage score after all of these games. It seems like every time we watch the Darkbreakers camera perspective, he's just dishing out massive bursts.
Yeah, it really is. And that's of course his role in that team to deal out the burst at massive speeds as well. You know, he got that focus mana, you got the fervor coming out. Oh, they saw that player jumping at them. What a nice deny on All Pro there. That was just insane how they just saw that in time. Disrupt on them. You can see All Pro not just disrupted, it's going to be exiled pretty soon as well. And that's the last player. All Pro. Actually, yeah, that was the last one. So IMQT takes out another win with a fairly good damage and exile count too. It's probably not their highest score, but still very high up there in the terms of breaks. And of course, probably the highest scoring team in that lobby. So they'll be happy with that. No throwaway games for them so far. It might still go down to those 360. We still have 3 games to go. So it's not over just yet, but it's still looking fairly convincing.
I mean, we started off in the first couple matches with an extremely tight race, and it seems like after halftime, IMQT has just completely pulled away. What a game from the Darkbreakers once again. It has been such a treat to watch his perspective. That was a 10 bomb right there, and it looked casual. It looked like he was just hanging out, dealing damage, no stress at all. He drops a fat double-digit bomb right now in Game 5. As you said, we have 3 more matches to go. Thunder Thighs is now on that EU ping, so we're hoping to see some mechanical outplays. Maybe they can contest this first place. But I mean, looking at the scorecard, ! Scores in the chat, if you guys want to see what we're seeing, you guys can see for yourself just how disparate this point difference is.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger by the game, it seems as well. It was 500 before we went into this one. It's probably now more like 7 to 800 almost. It's not looking hot for the number 2 and 3, but at least they're still in a close race together. And that still makes it exciting to see who gets that second place in the qualifier or the third place even, because all those things do matter. You know, we can't have only 8 teams in the finals. That would be boring. So we're going to potentially even see who gets to go into that. And for now, it is 10 squads, or actually 9 squads battling it out in this qualifier to see who gets to join into that Fusion Finals game.
Yeah, I mean, what's exciting as well, not just the first place finish, because that is, like you say, the one who really goes into that Fusion Finals, but there is 2 wild card spots available. We have 8 qualifiers and 10 spots to the finals. So if one of these teams can do a nice job of contesting that second place, you never know what the possibilities are. I want to see if SAP can continue this. I know that last game didn't turn out in their favor. That's going to be an almost guaranteed throwaway, but I want to see SAP stay on this ride, stay on this momentum. Don't let that shake you and try to contest for a tight second, because that's really all you can ask for at this point.
Really, and I'm pretty sure they've also still got the high score of today, the highest scoring games, and it's definitely something to be excited about. And of course, it's not just SAP. We also still have Thunder Thighs that were very close to it. Speakers of the Dead actually did quite a good job in that last round. So those 2, 3, 4 spots are getting closer and closer together as these games go on, and the breakaway there is still supposedly happening. Now, we're of course going to be waiting to kill against a Game 6. We've had 5 games already, 4 on NA, 1 on EU, and we're going to be keeping going with EU games until the end. Central European, so that's roughly, the Well, I don't know. It's just in Europe somewhere in Central. I know it's my region, but other than that, I don't exactly know where the server for this is. So we'll see where they connect to. It's been an interesting one so far, Place. It's definitely been one that we were looking out for it. We're looking forward to it, but we've had some ups and downs.
Yeah, we certainly have had some ups and downs. I mean, these matches, they do come out to some pretty close contests. Other than that last match, it was a little bit of a roll at the end, but it has been exciting to see the 3v3s come out at the end of the game. Unfortunately, it does look like AmaQT is about to pull away with this one. I mean, if they can continue this type of play where they're consistently clearing over 360, I mean, this has been the topic we've been going back to over and over again. If you can keep your scores above 360 and your throwaways are above that line, you are in for a set tournament. You are looking great going in, and this team is certainly pulling that off. Let's go to the other teams in the contest, though. You mentioned SAP and Thunder Thighs. What does Thunder Thighs need to do exactly to get back into that contentious spot?
Yeah, I mean, they need to win games and they need to get a lot of exiles, a lot of damage out. That's how simple it is. But most of all, you can see how you can see the pressure rising on both SAP and Thunder Thighs. Like both of them took fairly early fights, and sort of it didn't really look. I'm not saying that it looked like they weren't caring about their position and rotation stuff anymore, but it definitely looks like they're taking a few more risks here and there. Which, I mean, you kind of have to if you want to have pop-off games. Without any risk, you're not really getting a lot of reward for it. Then you just get that consistent performance, which is nice. But if you don't really have the luxury of still having throwaway games like IMQT does, you cannot play as aggressively or you cannot play as passively at all times. You need to start getting the kills. You need to drop on those double portals. You need to drop on the exiles. That's what you need to do. And right now, they have the possibility to still do that. There's still 3 games left, but it's not as easy. It's easier said than done, of course. You still need to not die, because as soon as you get out of that third player, if the third player is gone, all you can really possibly play for is some poke damage and maybe positioning, but the exiles are going to be very hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but at least when we look at the team itself, right, we look at Moktola, Doc, and Milsey42, those are all players that do have the potential to pop off, right? So the chance is there. These players are super talented. Same goes for SAP. So it's not completely over. It's not written off. These players do have a shot to go for a big wipe. And like you kind of mentioned as well, if IMQT does get killed early on in this game, the door opens just a little bit. Each opportunity creaks the door a little bit more open for that contentious finish at the end. But as it stands right now, the door is quite close to shut, Man of Class. The game is starting soon.
It is close.
We are just waiting for the final exile, or should I say our production crew, to jump off the map. It's the last process before we get into Game 6. Ladies and gentlemen, remember Game 6, 7, and 8 are remaining, so stick with us to follow through for the rest of this event.
Yeah, there we go. Is the first one going on to a random duo. So that's not where we're going to stay. We're going to go straight onto a fight between Mofogos and the... Wow, that's actually immediately the Thunder Thighs as well. And this is not going to be an easy one to win. Meanwhile, we do see the squad of Marcus, QZ, and Darkbreakers take out a complete team wipe. Actually dropping into more than one team, it looks like. Plato gets the disrupt on Doc. Actually, it might have been the exile. No, I think they got him back up, but that's another disrupt coming out. SAP also under fire from the speakers of the dead. This circle, these teleportation circles have apparently been very aggressive to put people together. That is the disrupt again on Doc. They keep getting the res, they keep getting the deny, and they're so spread out. Like they're finally going to be able to regroup around this area, actually find a player that's going to be well disrupted for them. Gonna probably go for the first exile. They don't really need to. They're gonna probably have their head on the swivel to not get this one denied. And there is another one coming out. That's a thunder strike to take you onto the shock. That's the conduit to finish it off. Moktola won't miss those shots. That's gonna be a finish on this player with the wind shears, and that is the entire team of Mofogos just taken out right there. We had them on our list. At least I definitely know you did, but it hasn't really come up for them so far.
I know, it looks like I made the wrong call. They were my dark horse team, and it looked like they had a chance to really take down Thunder Thighs for a quick second there at the start, but the team play from Thunder Thighs did prove to be too much to handle. You saw them balance those reses. They picked up Doc multiple times to keep up the pressure, and they finish off the wipe. So Thunder Thighs keeps their dreams alive with that one. I'm sure if they died or got wiped right there, Man of Class, it would have been a huge wrench in their plan of taking this contentious second or first place finish. And now now we see back over to another team. This is Hermaeus Mora with the Speakers for the Dead and Frith Knight on the squad as well. They've had a great showing today, and I mean, they were kind of one of our pocket picks, but it's been awesome to see them come out and really compete in these matches.
Yeah, and they're right now on top of SAP. They already took down 2 disrupts on. Actually, I think they just exiled Imagine as a thirst, and everyone else is still alive. So SAP might actually be running around with 2 players alone, and that's not great. It's not great for SAP that really needs to get the damage exiles and the aggressive play out, because right now it's all coming up for at least for Speakers of the Dead, because they've been doing pretty well in the last few games, and just continuing that, they might be the ones to take down IMQT in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the shot right there. We see Noah the Elite taking down Haliax the Great, 2 really fantastic usernames going at it in the kill feed, but it looks like Noah will be superior. And now we see Frith Knight trying to take some pot shots off the side, sees the flight room, but doesn't go for that second take. And here it is. Oh, that was a beautiful angle, but he didn't quite get it to land. Only a handful of pixels separating that bow and arrow strike from connecting. Now Frith Knight is just looking to get right up in the face here, throwing down a little bit of toxic spray, but not going to get too much to land. His teammates will do the favors of running up on him, but now Frith Knight is a little bit exposed. His team went so deep onto that opponent. Now Frith Knight's going to have to do his own work. Nice job to deal some damage, keep this opponent off of him completely, and now he's going to be on the front foot. Frith Knight is low, no armor, but still playing aggressive. Look at this team just moving forward. Hermaeus Mora and his squad is just doing a great job of staying together, staying compact, and dealing big damage here, Man of Class.
Yeah, so far the damage is definitely coming out for them. It's of course IMQT and well, actually the Speakers of the Dead that are still in the kill feed. Carcass going down on top, but it's yeah. So far, Speakers of the Dead doing really well in this round. I think they got like 2 or 3 squad exiles so far, which means they're on track to get quite a nice exile score and also damage score out as a result. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this is going to take them. IMQT doesn't seem to have been as hot. We saw them in the kill feed here and there, but generally speaking, they've just been looting. And look at that. They actually got a lot of loot out. They actually managed to find quite a few things.
Yeah, Marcus A.A. Apostle once again just racked up with knowledge potions. It seems like that's been a common thread throughout multiple of these matches. Marcus just getting so many knowledge potions. I mean, Darkbreakers as well had a couple in his pocket from a couple matches ago, and he managed to just blow up a target with the boulders. It's so funny to see how these knowledge potions are interacting with competitive play. It was one of those things where when the announcement came for the patch, knowledge potions were really what was scaring a lot of players. But give me your insight on how knowledge potions have actually affected competitive all flat out.
I think all the fears that people had about them are kind of true. Like the power level of it is significantly high, because getting 2 extra charges on your runes and both your sorceries, and then getting those for every single pot you find. Like, imagine if you find 3 knowledge potions, put them all on one player, so they get 6 extra charges on everything they have. That's like such a big disadvantage or big advantage you have over other players that you got to almost wonder why wouldn't you just take them straight away? I think if you change the amount of charges you get for a potion, if you can only get 1, for instance, then it becomes slightly more balanced, especially if people find multiple. But with Finders Keepers, that is just, it's almost impossible to control. I think that's what it really comes down to, is what builds you run around it and make it better or worse.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it definitely is a feels bad moment when you roll up on a player and get hit with 6 boulders. So I can see where some of the worries come out about the knowledge potions. But getting back to the game, we see Thunder Thighs making a move onto another squad. They will get the exile to fall here. Millsy holding down that F key, as you can see, and now they will get it onto Yokale. So that is Team Unknown taking a couple members to loss right there. Thunder Thighs with a nice performance here. This is what it takes to get them back into contention. They need a match like this. They need to close this out, Man of Class. They need some big burst on some big targets.
And you see Navorsen get the finish onto Quacks on Twitch. That is a nice exile that they get out there, but that's only 1 player left. We talked about it before. We saw 1 player get exiled, and Saps only got 1 member left. Navorsen going for the placements, maybe for some exiles, but so far they're not looking to be finishing out great in this game unless they can really hide, which is what they're going to be trying to do. Saw some boulders come their way, saw some players following them. They're going to try and hide out in this Dust Pool village area, making sure they don't get spotted, making sure they don't get taken out too early. Because with 18 players left in the lobby, that's still a bit of an early death if you get that as a team. Now we go back to Speakers of the Dead, who are, of course, still all 3 together. They're doing great this game. You see the Knowledge Potion onto Hermaeus Mora, has got the 3 charges on every single thing they've got. And they'll be able to even extend those those with the extra conduit charges. So a lot of runes coming out for them. They can teleport for days.
Yeah, they got a lot of movement options as well right there, as you mentioned. Now we'll see Hermaeus Mora get up in the face with that, getting a little bit of lightning damage. He doesn't have a build that's optimized for close range, but he doesn't care. He's getting right up in the face right now, jumping onto this frontside player, almost going to melt him. That will fall. Haliax the Great goes down, and his team is right in position to finish the exile. Now it looks like Hermaeus has spotted out another player, and they're going to try to take the fight. He does have those knowledge potions, like you mentioned, tons of sorcery and runes to be burned. Hermaeus is now just backing up, looking for the pot. His team did get a nice exile, and it looks like that's all they want to take out of this fight. Millsy is in the kill feed as well, so Thunder Thighs back out here representing. Hermaeus Mora misses a shot just barely right, but they're making that choice to back out here, Man of Class. They don't want to push too far.
No, they definitely do not. But you do see actually Darkbreaker's be taken down by by Millsy. It's actually might have been the entire squad wipe. It might be that QQZ is still alive. I haven't actually seen their name in the kill feed lately, so could be that Darkbreaker squad is indeed out right now. Could be that they're just going for placement. That would be interesting because then we've got a few higher profile squads that are not running with a full roster anymore in this game, and that leads to some very cool end game. But it mostly leads to Speakers of the Dead potentially getting more exiles out of that and even better placement. So this could be their biggest breakout game yet.
Yeah, this could be massive for them. Like you said, this could really put them in a place to try to make some work happen. Hermaeus Mora does get a legendary from that overextension, but eats some damage in return. So Millsy and Doc do get a kill as well. Thunderthighs continues to rack up some exiles in this Game 6 situation, and Hermaeus Mora doesn't actually go for that ice snipe. This is a very interesting comp as well. It looks like his whole team is taking Frost except for Dead Sun. So as much as we do see this with trios, I mean, Frost is such a great gauntlet. It does look like this team is able to hit their shots this match to really make a difference. I mean, Hermaeus Mora has 4 exiles right now.
Yeah, they really do, and there's going to be more on their squad in general, because they've not only be the only one scoring, but there we see it. This is Thunder Thighs closing in onto Speakers of the Dead. This could be the number 1 and 2 team off this lobby right now, but it does look like they're going to not be feeling each other out. Looks like they might just go in deep and just go for that, go for the exile, go for the bigger breakout play, go for the risk, the high risk, high reward strat, and it's already Millsy straight away with the toxic sprays onto their opponents. Oh, gets shocked out, but will actually be fine for so far because they've got they've got quite a little bit of health, quite a little bit of sorceries themselves. We'll be able to go in with that Toxicologist. The Vanishing Mist is going to be helping them out a ton, and the of course the Dragon Fire as well that they could use. Getting first exile onto Dead Sun, that's the first down on the Speakers of the Dead. Will they be able to win the 3v2, or do they have to run away? The armor is gone for Thunder Thighs right now, so there is some space, and the shock on Millsy is great. Oh, those lightning strikes have been really on point so far for Speakers of the Dead, but they need to get a little bit more if they want to survive this. Gotta get the heals out for Millsy. That luxury will not be available for Speakers of the Dead, and I see some shockwaves come out. Are you gonna run away from that? You are, because the invisibility rune, the Shadow Step, will be able to get you more health up, and Millsy is almost back to full. They're still fighting at range with this conduit. They're still fine here. Thunder Thighs are in a great spot. They took over this structure here for from the Speakers of the Dead. It's a very good tactic, of course, to take away the high ground from the other team. And with that first disrupt, they're exactly able to do that. Now just fighting some ranged toxic sprays, making sure there's puddles everywhere to step in.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Millsy as well take that safeguard potion, and look at the difference it made for his HP. He got chunked there on the back half, but we just see how effective those safeguard potions are in the late game. Millsy getting a lot back, a lot of value, and this is what we were talking about just a little bit, right? What happened to IMQT in this Game 6? Well, it's just one remaining. It's KQZ stuck up here with Invis, spamming it on cooldown. Never mind, showing his face just a little bit, throwing out a cheeky fireball and getting his way back out. Interesting to see him and how he's going to try to handle this one. You can almost assume that he's looking for placement, and he's just trying to play some games with this front side team. This is risky right now.
Oh, no.
QZ is on a bit of a
have to
stealth
throw that
mission.
ball.
Threw down the flame wall. You're right. That's going to... Oh! He hits him with the juke, break an ankle 1 or 2. KQZ just throws the invis on and gives them the crossover. Allen Iverson, nice play from KQZ to get a bit more space for himself. That's game
the corner,
changer.
it's not outside of the zone. You have to go in, use another invis charge. I mean, eventually they'll be spotted out, but I mean, I said it, they didn't have to throw out that fireball. They still did. I do see there in the kill feed that Thunder Thighs is in a squad fight with this other place. Oh, that's the Clash Clang, I think, again. Yep, that it definitely is. They're going to be able to try and take this fight, but it's going to be... Oh, Millsy actually... Oh, yeah, Millsy gets taken out, exiled by Rainbow Jake. That's not going to be someone coming back, and it's actually only one player left on that squad. It's a 1v1 to finish this off. This is not a res that's going to come out from either of them. Rainbow Jake not taking that one. There is their final opponent. The Thunder Thighs are on point here right today, and they might actually be able to res at least Doc back up, because Millsy is definitely out. This is an interesting fight that's taking place, because that does mean that potentially the Speakers of the Dead, also left with 2 players, might be in a bit of trouble. Moktola is looking for it. They want to actually be able to res Doc back up, but they have to go for this 1v1. They have to finish off this player first. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to do it. That might actually be Kukuzi that was hiding with the Invis room the entire time and now had to rotate into the circle when Moktola is under so much pressure. Has some teleport charges. Will able to use them to get away. Almost walks into Lightning Strike. Eventually will do so. Moktola just going for the damage. Just going for the exiles here. Just wants to get the value out of these because they cannot run into the zone and get that res off. It's too far away. It's too much health damage. They barely have any potions, so they cannot take that risk. They have to go here for the damage, for the exiles. And with so many squads not being complete, who's going to come out on top of this? This could still be Kukuzi or Moktola somehow pulling up the victory. I don't think either of them have died. There does... Yep, I mean, that's actually Kukuzi gets the kill onto Moktola. So again, finishing above the Thunder Thighs, that is not what you wanted to see if you are the Thunder Thighs indeed, or if you're a fan of Europe. Like, you know, I'm not saying I am, because I'm caster, I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I'm European. That's all I'm going to say. Kukuzi is going to just duke everyone out in this zone, is the last player alive. I think it's a 3v1 at this stage. Kukuzi should be going down by any means necessary, but he's just going to keep walking around, keep bringing around the Rosie and them, use the Firefly to get away from that one. Have they spotted it out? He has so many potions still. That's insane. How can Kukuzi just heal back up to full and maybe chip down their helmet? If he manages to win this one, then we can just call it. I think we can just call the event. They just win by grace period. Everyone else gets to fight for second, because that would be insane if they're able to pull off this victory.
Yeah, I mean, if QQZ can whip out the 1v3 right now, then he is not just Allen Iverson on the jukes. He's going Michael Jordan with the carry effort. I mean, look at him try to put in this work now, moving himself around. Does have Invis off cooldown once again. So getting himself through the tunnel. He is just so low, though, Man of Class. I don't think he can get away with this one. He is just too low. The Invis rune, well, it has made such a difference in getting him to this point. It is so hard to fight off 3 players with Invis. I'm not sure what his strategy is going to be here as the circle just continues to close in on him. QQZ now just gets a bit of HP back, looking to fight now, throwing down the massive damage. Wait a second now, QQZ's doing the huge DPS, getting off as much damage as he can, putting up the scorecard. Smart play from him, but nonetheless, he will die. Dead Sun taking the victory right there. So Speakers for the Dead does win the Game 6 situation. Although QZ put up a beautiful fight to make him the most of the situation, it's still a W right there for Speakers for the Dead.
It is, and that's game 6 down. That means we've got quite a few done already. Only 2 to go, and this could be the point where the throwaway games start getting determined. You know, every game after this will actually show you if it's higher than any of the other 2 lowest games. Then there's already one guarantee that's going to be thrown out. If it's lower, it might be one of the new throwaway games. So we'll look at what this has done to the scores. Of course, we're not completely done with filling everything out, but we're getting close, and we can already see that Thunder Thighs, for instance, they got 715 points from this game. 715. That's, I think, the new day record. Actually, no, that is not, because I see 814 before that from IQT, that for MQT. That is not okay. 814. That's insane, the high score play. But still, getting 715 is a big comeback for a team like Thunder Thighs, especially if you think about that IMQT was not playing with a full squad for quite a while in that game. Probably only got some damage numbers up, but not really a lot of exiles. And some placement was good, but it's not going to save your score that bad. So let's see if they can still actually make it to a place where they're potentially coming in with a top 300 score. Could be lower, could be higher. We'll see. What we can see is, though, that Speakers for the Dead did get the 486. That's another decent score for them. Pretty decent, more than decent, you might say. Not quite the pop off, but still, first placement, quite a few exiles, good damage out. That's what you like to see. And now IMQT score is going to get locked in. It's 1 exile for Marcus, 2 for Darkbreakers, and I think 1 or 2 for Kuzi. I don't think he had that much more. So even though they got second place, which is pretty good, they're not going to get that much higher than maybe 300 points. That's going to be a tough one to deal with. And this is probably their first throwaway game confirmed, but we'll see. We'll see where they end up.
I mean, that's exactly the point I was about to raise, is that we have been talking about forcing IMQT to use one of their throwaway games, and I think we might have finally seen it. But this is what's so interesting, right? The one time that this might be the chance for IMQT to have a throwaway game, Kuzi goes with the big brain plays, gets himself into that final placement, so that even if this is the throwaway, it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst game to maybe have in your pocket if another game becomes worse. That is the key to these events, is how can you spread your scores out, make sure that you're not landing in an 80 score card into your final six, because that is what spells disaster. Another interesting
Yeah.
point is that the placements are now open, right? I mean, Thunder Thighs just got enough score to possibly take a shot at number one. It's a slim chance IMQT is going to have to blow two of these games and just completely lose them, but still it's a chance. I mean, we've played in qualifiers when it's almost mathematically impossible, but now the door is
Definitely.
open to a certain degree.
Yeah, you would think so, right? So you can look at like what's the total score of either of these teams, but there's still 1,000 point or 900 point gap between the numbers 1 and 2. Like the gap has still only gotten bigger, and it's not looking to let up anytime soon. Of course, we still haven't taken away the throwaway games. It's very true, and the throwaway games, because they're higher for IMQT right now, they'll lose more points because of those throwaway games in that process. But they're still going to be about 400 or 500 points up at least, if I'm not mistaken in my math. So it's going to be tough to see where this is coming out. But like you said, it just takes two games. It just takes two really bad games or really good games from you, and that can make all the difference. So we'll see where they're going to end up as we go into Game 6. The lobby hasn't been started yet, so we're going to have a few minutes, probably at least 4 or 5 minutes before we actually get into a game, and that gives us quite a bit of time to talk play safe. And I don't really know about what, because it's been pretty clear where this is going so far.
I mean, something we can definitely discuss, right, is the dark horse teams. I mean, we came into the event and we talked about that and how there's these new units that have come together slightly. We haven't seen them scrim too much. It's teams like the Monfongo Bros coming out here. They are in 5th place right now, but they're still doing a decent job of contesting fights. That's all you can ask for when you put a new squad into these events, is can they at least defend their own honor? Can they come in here and start some good fights and not just get rolled over and quit like we did see one team do? Not going to call any names, but it does happen, right? So can you at least have enough of that work to put yourself in an honorable position? And that's what we're seeing coming out from Monfongo Bros. Same type of thing for Speakers for the Dead, but I would even say the Speakers for the Dead are taking a shot at it right now. They're doing a great job. They just won that game and they're playing a fantastic set of Spellbreak.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're getting some good placements. They're getting some good points out. It's not only about the highs, it's also about the lows. And I think when we look at the games of today so far, it has, I mean, quite a few teams have had pop-off games. They've had good scores, high scores. But the problem is that there's one team that just hasn't really had any low scores, and that is indeed the team of IMQT. Their lowest score right now is 256. It's just that's just where we're at. That's their lowest game right now, and that's not a low score. Low scores, we're talking in the hundreds, 150s and below, etc. So if they're still above 250 for their lowest score game, then that's just the consistency you look for. And consistency in battle royales, that's what you talk about, because you play 8 games, you play either 6 of them count. So your consistency is all that really matters. If you don't have any pop-up games, it doesn't matter as long as your baseline's high enough.
Yeah, for sure. Now we're just waiting for that game 7 to start. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, 2 games remaining in this qualifier number 3. We have so many qualifying events. Sometimes you lose track, but this is the 3 of 8 coming up on these events. We do have 2 more games remaining, as we mentioned, waiting for us to get into these matches. Who are you watching out for other than IMQT? Are you keeping your eyes on Thunder Thighs or SAP? Who do you think is going to have a better showing in these final 2 games?
I think Thunder Thighs has a better shot together with Speakers of the Dead. I think SAP has they peaked very early and they haven't really come back since. They've had very poor performances in the last few games. They have had actually multiple games under the 200 already, and that really mathematically puts them in a very tough spot. Like the luck of the draw really isn't even on them anymore. They need those other teams to do poorly in order to even have a shot at getting back up to the number 1. So I think SAP, mathematically, they're not out, but practically speaking, they have really not been doing well. Even on that ping, it's just not working for them. And therefore, I'm looking way more to Thunder Thighs, way more to Speakers of the Dead, potentially even, to do something against this IMQT roster. Because as you know, we say that they're sort of getting close, it's really still a big gap between them.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point, right? We can do all we want on this casting desk, bringing up analysis, bringing up the chances of how to slip in there, but it's still 2 games of Spellbreak where IMQT has been playing fantastic, and it would be
Yeah.
quite a feat to see them just completely forget how to play the game, maybe lose feeling in their hands for 2 matches, because at this point, that seems to be the only way that they're going to throw this lead. 2 more games remaining, ladies and gentlemen. We will get you guys the action. We are just dropping in right now. And Man of Class, it looks like Game 7 is right underway once the
There we
spectate gets
go.
pushed through. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't you throw down in chat who you are cheering for in these final games, and we'll get a little consensus in the group about who everybody wants to win this match.
Yeah, of course, we're going to be seeing straight away some fighting happening in the Dust Pool on top of the Golden Dome of Loot. It's actually, don't think this is any one of our actual squads that we have in the tournament right now, but we do see Primotastic, Plato, and we immediately take down a random squad as well. That's a few good exiles, and well, they're not really in the running anymore. You know, still you steal some kills away from another team that could potentially then need them later. So even though, you know, there's a lot going on for the top teams, missing those few exiles could make the difference in the end, and you could be the one that has actually been able to spoil their fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's every little bit of score counts. And as you guys know, once you drop into a Spellbreak lobby, there's a limited amount of score that can be had due to the number of people in the match. So it's nice to see them capitalizing early. We see SK Rainbow Jake, no offhand, but still just looking for some good loot. The fight breaks out, though. We're watching Frith Knight try to put down a little bit of damage on the front side now, just chasing this opponent who looks to have a dash rune. Goes down there, as you see now. Frith Knight, though, is getting jumped on the DF. It's huge. Escapist is helping with the mobility, but there's no recovery. And look at Frith Knight just get so low on the backside. The Stone Shaper's just throwing him down. Duke Lee, 67, just drops him off real quick. And Hermaeus Mora is now going to have to redeem him. Gets the drop, as we see in the kill feed as well. And the Vorsen takes down Wawawiwa TV. Beautiful username from that player, but they will fall. As we see, Frith Knight will get picked up. Not quite, actually. His teammate has to make the decision to back off. Doesn't want to risk getting blown up for the res right here, MOC.
Yeah, we saw multiple squads in this area, so this could be a really good place for Speakers of the Dead to actually get some score back. Frith Knight is immediately going to go for a little bit of a heal pod, has to get some armor too. He's probably going to be looking for potions in the meantime, and finds the medium artist shard and health potion. Nice to work with because you get quite a bit of health and armor back from those, but they don't take forever to drink, so they'll be able to re-engage pretty soon. But for now, it's just Hermaeus Mora that takes down Yoshimaru. They already had their other teammate down. It's just one player left. They're looking from a distance. You see them, oh, there's a fireball coming at me. It's a 3v1. Well, I'm in a lot of trouble now, and that's indeed correct. It's a 3v1. Not really going to be winning that quickly. We saw Kuzi also not being able to do that in the final circle, and now you're on your own. You have no HP. You get some armor back from your stone skin, but that's not going to help you out. They get that last disruption, that last exile. Oh, it was actually Duke being picked back up, so that means there's still a third player left. Completely misread that one place, but they're probably going to get that kill in a fairly decent amount of time. There it is. There's the last one. All looking over. I think Frith Knight is going to go for that thirst. No, they actually got him already. That's okay. Going to be, well, that's going to be the third one for them. There's at least 3 exiles, maybe even more coming, because I thought there was another squad in this area.
Oh, yeah, it is. Look at this now.
Well, there
this
is now.
Exactly
yeah.
The caster call right there coming out from Man of Class. Big brain right now as he just calls this Thunder Thighs engagement. This team should push into the other team of Hermaeus Mora. But something to keep in mind is Hermaeus Mora just got insanely good loot from that fight. There was a Mana Vault that got taken by the other team, but Hermaeus Mora managed to win the fight and take the loot. But it looks like it's not going to help as Doc immediately drops Dead Sun. Getting over to Moktola's angle now. He's looking for high ground, trying to finish off some kills. Throws down a nice sorcery with a nice double fireball right there. Huge damage. Moktola just showing off his ability to rock that pyro with the conduit. Or I apologize, conduit with the fire offhand as he's just throwing down the damage. Look at that tracking right there as he's following him through. One more will do it. Blowing up the cloud will finish the deal right there. Thunder Thighs with a nice squad wipe. That looked efficient.
Yeah, but that last kill as well. I mean, you talk about team play. That was someone calling, I'm going to throw down that. So I want to throw down the toxic cloud, and then you can dragon fire it. That's exactly how that last one happened with the explosion of the DF, and that's communication for you. I mean, you know that it happens, and you can hear that it happens. Sap now though, they're in a fight. straight away with IMQT, and they both lost a player already. 2 disrupts have gone down. A little bit of a heal from Navorsa with that small healing pot. We talked about it in scrims yesterday, how much those have changed the game. And I think that Navorsa might have gotten away with this. They might have duked this player that they just passed over. No, they're going to still get chased down. They're super low, though. They're going to get disrupted by Yokal. That's actually the third party that comes in. Darkbreakers, I think they've been eliminated, but they might have just been disrupted twice by Bin Laden and by Imagine. It looks like there was a double disrupt indeed. So that is still a disrupt down here for IMQT, but they might be able to heal that back up. Imagine is sort of hiding, but I think they're being chased down now for Navorsa's orb, and they might see this come out. Oh, the fireball, it does block it, and that's Imagine going down. Sap eliminated, and that must almost mean their chances of getting first place in this, even second, have all but evaporated with this one, because that's not a high placement.
I mean, it's so sad to see, right? Because SAP came out with some fantastic matches, but once we switched over to EU, it just seems like it wasn't going their way. And now we see the result of that is they're just going down to this team unknown. Shout out to Yokale on the Xbox, making it work. Just can't quite hit these air shots, though. There's some follow-ups, though. Yokale now just going to look to finish off this player jumping through the sky. Can't quite get too many of these direct shots to go. Spring Step now burned, but look at this. He actually got popped off by a couple of frost shots coming in from deep. Throws down the lightning sorcery, but he's just in too far now. Yokale is overextended with no teammates around him. He's just getting jumped on. That is Marcus, aka Postal's lunch and dinner. Finishing him up with a slap now. They will see the third party. This is about to be a big fight unfolding in Halcyon Cathedral MOC. We'll see if IMQT can keep up with this pace.
I mean, I was going to say, we knew that Darkbreakers have been disrupted twice in this area, so they were still around, and it looks like after the res came up onto Darkbreakers, they're just going to re-engage. I don't think Darkbreakers is still disrupted, so this is a 1v3 potentially for Quacks TV, and they haven't really had the best game so far. Not really thinking they're going to be able to pull this off, but they're going to try and go for that res. But you see it. They're just following the orbs. They're checking out, okay, the orb's going there. That probably means this player is somewhere around there, and Quack Easy, actually, maybe even. That'd be even funnier. It's going to be great. He is on Twitch. That's all we know. So try and find that username if you want to see how they're doing so far. Communication is happening. They actually get the res off. Not on All Pro. All Pro has been thirsted by Marcus Apostle. And we will, we're actually going to be able to see whether they're going to be able to get further in this zone. But right now, going straight after the next squad, it is indeed. That's not the Clash Clang. That is Money Team that we're following over there. Another random duo. We're going to be trying to find another fight for you guys, because that's what we want to see. You want to see the action. You want to see the mechanics. You want to hear us, mull about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the cool things I do love about when we bounce around these teams is we're seeing a lot of PS4 and Xbox logos on some of these teams. I mean, Team Unknown has an Xbox and a PS4 player, so it's so cool to see these consoles coming together in this Fusion tournament. That's what it's all about, and it's even nicer to see them show up in Game 7 here with a nice performance. But speaking of nice performance, we got Thunder Thighs making a statement here, trying to show up and blow up on I'm a QT. 3 kills to Moktola 1. He did switch over to Conduit once we got to EU servers. I do personally think Moktola's best when he's on his Conduit, so it's going to be cool to see how he can walk this one off. Nice little confidence right there to just step that boulder and not be worried about it. Doesn't flinch at all as it flies over his head. Now Moktola is just positioning for the damage. Throwing out a couple 8s as his teammates are also throwing out Toxic, and that is a beautiful strategy right there of just focus fire. Now they just turn onto this player diving into the backline. Look at the damage, and this is what we were talking about, man of class. Look at the team coordination as this player just went too far. Bill Cypher will fall, and now Moktola and the rest of the squad is looking to just mop this up, MOC.
Yeah, it's all about those rotations, deciding as a team, okay, now we're going to focus this target. Now we're moving back, and if they come at us, then we just focus them down. Nicely done from them. And you see immediately in the kill feed, Doc getting Bill Cypher as the another disruption. Apparently they got some sort of resurrection off, but they're going to have only one player to contest with anymore. The problem is they're in Halcyon. And there's one thing we know about Halcyon is this is the prime place to get third party, to get found out, and they might just have to give this up. They might just have to not try and secure these exiles in order to preserve their own life, because there might be a third party coming in any moment. So able to keep an eye on this, but they have a ways to run. This zone is moving too fast for that to be a close circle, so they have to use their movements, not lose too much health. Otherwise, they're going to be in trouble later on in the game. They have to use too many potions.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like Doc did get his full reset, so that team should be nice and healthy going into the second circle. You see Doc also getting a kill onto Sergeant Super Sloth, so that's going to be another little bit
Still
of
the same
score
team. Yeah.
adding on to. Oh, so that's just a delayed exile, I'm assuming then.
Yeah,
So
there we
Jay
go. Because
Tizzle.
Quakes get that last one. Yeah, so Quakes get the last one is your Rainbow Jake, and that's the third member of that squad of Bill Cipher and Quakes. Sorry, Bill Cipher and him. So Money Team, I think that is now actually no, that's Clash Clang now actually just eliminated. They're out of it. It's good to see that happening. And now we see actually, I think, a three-way battle between Marcus Apostle, K. Jordan, Gredict, and Brandonak. Those are all players that should be around the same area right now. And the circle is getting closer, so it doesn't make a whole lot of nonsense. 12 players in the lobby. That makes 4 squads. I think they're all full ones as well. This is going to be tough to do. But they're all already fighting. And the real squad that is still on the outside, that hasn't really been fighting so far, in the kill feed at least, has been that Thunder Thighs European squad.
Yeah, they haven't really been showing up in the kill feed as much as we're seeing names like Marcus, aka Apostle, this game, which is surprising because Thunder Thighs needs to have a huge game to turn this one around. But nonetheless, getting to the action in front of us, Jay Tizzle throwing down these massive waves of DF with that toxicologist spreading sickness. But the shots are coming in from both angles, so the team is going to have to try to peel back now. The Xbox player on the team, Noah the Elite, is low. They're trying to back up their squad members by just folding into the cut, throwing out a nice bit of cloud, but look at that damage. It gets blown up right in his face. And this is the danger of Toxicologist late game. Moktola 1 blows up Jay Tizzle off the backside of that engagement, and the rest of his team is just in so much trouble. Thunder Thighs knows that this other squad is low, and they should push farther. Look at the side. That's Marcus, aka Apostle, actually, with that Fortitude Toxicologist trying to get in on the side. Man of Class, this is breaking down in front of us as Quakes on Twitch takes down Noah the Elite. This is the end of the road, it looks like, for Jay Tizzle's squad, and the rest of the game is about to break down in this fight.
It really is, but that's 3 different squads getting the exile on that entire unit. Moktola only getting 1 of that. So Thunder Thighs really getting their kill stolen right there. And now we're going to be looking into a place where, I mean, they have to res Millsy, but I think, yeah, I was going to say, we're still looking to this. So it's not 3 full squads that are left. It's like a separate unit, and this double, because Darkbreakers did indeed get exiled, not the double disruption like we were alluding to before. So they're still doing good on placement. They're still doing good on exiles. Marcus is really taking up the crown of the exile king on that team right now because Darkbreakers was already out. And you can see that they're not completely relying on that. Moktola takes down Quakes on Twitch, so that will be another disruption. And there is the team wipe. That was the 2 players left. Now we're working with a 3v2v2 most likely, with actually the Thunder Thighs being the only full squad left.
Yeah, so that puts them in such a great spot if they're the only 3 remaining. But look at Marcus. He's just on a bit of a highlight mission as he hits a nice shot over the top. They don't have Darkbreakers on the squad, as you mentioned earlier, which is disastrous because Darkbreakers has been doing so much work for this team. But now it's just going to have to be a 2-man effort as Marcus, aka Apostle, gets right up into the front side, gets up and misses a massive outbreak, and that might be the end of it for him. He takes down Millsy, though, with a quick flick, nice reactions. So Marcus will stay up, gets a pot as well. Looks like QZ is in trouble. He will get a potion, so his team is just trying their best to reset. Jumping up now, and Marcus misses 2 crucial slaps. That's going to change the pace of this fight. That could have been a huge turn if Marcus managed to get the damage, but Doc will follow through. Thunder Thighs does get the best of AmaQT. QZ is down to almost nothing as we switch the camera angle to the EU team themselves. Look at him spotting out QZ with that wolf's blood, and Doc is out for blood as they finish off the rest of the Marcus, aka Apostle team, and Kuzi will almost certainly follow, but Steelmetz is in the cut, taking down Moktola 1. This is just certainly blown up in the face of Thunder Thighs. Now Doc is just on his own. What looked like a sure thing is now sketchy, Man of Class. Doc is going to go for the sketchy res even more so, and this could be the game.
Yeah, they're looking for it. You see those thunder strikes come out like, oh, there's someone there. Oh, they're trying to get the res off over there, but they're getting the res off in another place. Now gets the Dragonfire straight on top of them. That's a huge play coming out. This is not going to go well for you. You're going to try and teleport away. They have the Wolf's Blood. That's Steelmetz. It wasn't even QZ. They'd already gone down. And Steelmetz just comes in as a random player. They're not, I mean, we know them. We've seen them in the chats before. We need them in the scrims before. They aren't even on a team right now. It's cool to see that they're still playing around. They may have sniped a lobby. I don't know. It's good to see them come out on the second place in this lobby, and that means it's a good placement at least for Thunder Thighs. I've got quite a few exiles out as well. Now I'm QT. Well, they did do something in terms of exiles, and their placement is decent. They did have to play with 2 players the entire round. That will probably affect their total score at least a little bit. We're going to be seeing later on how that happens for them with a 3rd place placement. And then we can look at what have teams been doing. For instance, Speakers for the Dead, we thought they were doing okay before this, but they had an 11th place in this one. So only 155 points, which is not a whole lot to speak of. Then we'll be seeing if SAP can get it back. Well, it doesn't look like it because it's another sub 200 score for them too. So it really, the remaining hope is almost all on Thunder Thighs, who are racking up quite a few points here. Got the win, got at least 10 exiles, probably more, already on 415 points, and they aren't even done counting. This score is going up higher and higher, 500, 600. This is a great place for them to be in. That's a pop-off game after they've just had a 715 before. They might actually be challenging it, but IMQT, regardless of that 2-player, they still get a plus 300 score line. That's what we were talking about, right? How low does your score get? And their lowest score is still 256.
Right, so that's just almost like not a big deal if they have to cut that out. Remember, 2 games get thrown away. If 256 is your borderline or your lowest, then there's just nothing to worry about. IMQT definitely came out there with a 2-player performance, almost taking the dub, but getting wiped just a bit early. It's also interesting because, in my opinion, the Dark Breakers has been the facet, the center of the team so far. So to see him go down early was especially hard. I know Marcus A.K. Apostle did some great work on his own. QZ was also doing a good job from the support side, but it just wasn't enough. You need to have Dark Breakers. You need to have your tank in there to be able to fully fight like you're used to. You could see how uncomfortable they were taking fights without that centerpiece of the squad.
Yeah, and I mean, you see, that's interesting you bring that up because we were watching the scrims yesterday. Of course, me and Crashy were looking into that on the stream, and this squad was actually scrimming IMQT, and it was super interesting to see that quite often in those scrims, actually, it was often like only QZ or Marcus Apostle that was alive alone in the series. They were actually have had quite a bit of practice on not being in that final zone with 3. They've had some practice with 1v3, 1v2, 2v1 situations, and they actually already know what they're going to do in those. So it's super cool to see that come back into play today where they haven't had their full 3 all the entire time, and they're still able to pull out these consistent point performances, whether it's just with damage, with a few extra exiles, with placement. It's working out for them. They figured out that magic formula of how aggressive can we be in this situation.
And the one thing as well, I mean, when we're talking about finding the magic formula, it's the opposite story for SAP. I mean, they came out looking so prepared, so ready in game 1, 2, and 3 with some great showings, but it just all seems to have fallen apart. And this is something we talk about, Man of Class. You have to play 8 games of competitive Spellbreak. Me, you, and the viewers are sitting back nice and pretty, just relaxing and watching. But to stay focused for over 2.5 hours of gameplay, it's not an easy task. I'm not sure if that's exactly why SAP has fallen down here. It could be the change in ping as well, but it's something to mention, something to talk about. That is a storyline in these games, is what happened to SAP.
Oh, very much so. And we might actually be able to talk to them at some points. And like, guys, there was this qualifier and you were doing so well, and then it just changed away. But fortunately, we don't have to talk about it now because we're going to get into the next game. Game 8. Last one of the night, last one of qualifier number 3, with IMQT being very hard to dethrone. This could be the one. If you can get them on a very low score right now, you get a very high one yourself. Thunder Thigh still has a shot. I think they're not that far behind. But of course, when I check the scores, it'll probably be saying something completely different, and they'll be like 500, 700 points behind. The total right now is indeed saying something like that. It's about 500 points. Remember, do think though that the realistic difference is more like 200 to 300. So this one game could actually make the difference between the throwaway game that IMQT might have and the pop-off game that Thunder Thighs might have themselves. Difference right now is again 500 points roughly. It's 531 to be exact. And we'll see if they can do it. 531 points is a big gap to bridge, but it's more likely like 300 or 400 points. No, 200 or 300 points looking at the throwaway games that both teams have lined up right now. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with this one. There's still a chance, but indeed they have to have a good game here on Thunder Thighs. That's the control they have. That's what they can count on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just laid out exactly the formula for Thunder Thighs to maybe take a W here, but now we're watching Team Unknown in a bit of trouble. It looks like everybody on their team is low, no armor to speak of for anybody, and they're just rotating backwards. Quakes on Twitch is just in a fight of his own as his teammate tries to help him. Quakes on Twitch will go down. It's Millsy, so this is Thunder Thighs. The team that we talked about needing to have some early damage is doing just that. Pressing hard onto Team Unknown. They should be able to get the kills here as long as they can keep it clean. There
That's
it
three.
goes.
There you
That
go.
is a very crucial squad wipe right there, man of class.
And I was kind of worried because Doc had actually been disrupted earlier on, but they did get the res off. They got the kill off. Nice team play, nice rotation. Got the epic gauntlets up, and now they have this area. I mean, most of it's loot. I think I don't know if there's any other squads, but there's at least 3 exiles that are already on the board for them. That's 3 points or 3 partial points scores that they're already getting over the IMQT squad right now. Every single time they do something and IMQT doesn't, that gap gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and that is exactly what they're trying to do is just chip away at that gap. They've been doing it all tournament, or sorry, all qualifier, but they just haven't been able to get right up in there, and this might be their final chance. You see SK Rainbow Jake not quite getting the lethal shots onto the Stone Shaper, but he's doing his very best, getting nice positioning, and his teammate Sergeant Super Sloth is helping him with that work. Finishing off K Jordan 200, that will go, as now SK Rainbow Jake finishes off another player. Nice kiting with that conduit. Beautiful right there, as we see the first person play from Rainbow Jake, a nice example of how to walk it off with conduit.
Yeah, gets all the 3 kills on themselves. The Clash Clang actually getting some value this time around. We've seen them be sort of middle of the pack most of the time. Like their actual placement is 6th at the moment, which makes a lot of sense. Roughly in the middle, 6th. And yeah, they've been performing like it. They definitely have some good moments here and there, but in general, their real pop-off game hasn't really happened just yet. They've had some very low lows. And right now, we're looking at whether they can potentially improve that in this game. And again, every exile that happens on not the IMQT or the Thunder Thighs side might be impactful in terms of the final score. And IMQT's been very quiet. We haven't really seen them not be in the kill feed in this early game a lot. And it's probably, as I say, that we'll see it happen, but not just yet.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems to be the caster curse or the caster call that seems to happen here. But we see Frith Knight as well. Got that invis. He's got that escapist choice with Toxicologist. So very interesting to see him opt for that high mobility. We've seen that choice come out more and more from these Toxicologist players. We also have seen Fortitude, interestingly enough, be whipped out for some of these Toxicologist builds. But Frith Knight deciding not to take that one. In the kill feed, SK Shako getting some drops onto Bin Laden and Barak Tolka. Nice start for him as well. He is not a tournament player, but he's still getting that good work in, getting some good practice as we continue to bounce around through loading screens. Getting over to SAP Viper now, fighting directly. His team is just in an engagement, trying to hit these fireballs, gets one off the ground. Wawa Weewa will fall to Imagine, and the fight is unfolding. Viper just looking to get back on his high ground. Legendary dash, such a low cooldown for him as he goes for the potion, drinking on the backside of this hill now. Wants to wait to see if he has to make a direct move. His teammates are pushing forward on the top of the high ground. Viper gets himself to join with the squad now, posted up, looking to take a fireball, shoots it down, hitting a bunch. 1 for 18. The tick with the fire won't quite stick, but look at him get right in there. Viper with no fear, man of class. He's going for that frontline damage.
No, he definitely is. Viper is just wanting to pull out the damage, has the health, has the armor for it right now. Not a great belt, but at least something to work with. And the Storm is already on their behinds. There's another squad coming in. I think that's actually a third party. They might have to be careful about this. Not quite sure who this is. I don't think it's going to be... Yep, there they are. There's IMQT. I was going to say, I don't think it's Thunder Thighs. They were very far north, and this is really south on the map. And it's indeed the Marcus Apostle QZ and Darkbreaker squad of IMQT that comes in to steal that kill. Sap Viper under a bit of pressure though, but that does mean there's like 2 or 3 squads fighting here at the moment in this area, and that's a very interesting proposition because that means that even IMQT can take a lot of unnecessary damage that might come to haunt them later.
I mean, also as well, I mean, every time you see this SK Dark Breakers getting kills, every time you see AmaQT finishing off exiles or damage, it just shuts the door even more on closing out first place. They are doing their very best to secure the W in qualifier number 3, and they're so close. They just need a couple more engagements like that. I mean, taking out a team like SAP is massive as well because SAP was competitive up until these last games. Unfortunate that they fell off a little bit in the final matches, but it looks like Marcus and his squad is taking advantage of that. You see in the kill feed as well, Doc W getting a drop with the rest of his team. That's onto Pauly QQ, and Thunder Thighs looks like they're colliding. We might see a 2-team collision at the end of the game here.
I mean, that has to be what it is because it's just no other team has a mathematical chance of making it. Basically, that's where we're at. SAP was relatively close-ish. Speakers for the Dead, maybe, but they just don't have the points for it. They're so far behind. We took about 1,500 points. It's just not happening in one game. So you see Thunder Thighs. They see that 1 kill go down, the 3 kill go down on IMQT, and say we gotta improve, guys. We gotta get more kills. Immediately find that one in the poly QQ. That means they're still ahead in exiles right now. And what it has to come down to is them doing a lot of more damage, a lot more exiles, and get that difference up because it's a few hundred points that they really need to get.
Yeah, Wawa Weewa now taking shots from the high ground, doesn't quite land any, but eats a boulder for his troubles. Moktola 1 does get a kill on the kill feed as well, so this fight is going to start off. Wawa Weewa looking for some air shots, getting right up with the flight rune, goes for the barrel stuff, but misses just barely, and now he's going to be taking storm damage. Oh, the bug skin getting in his face, and you have to assume that's the Darkbreakers. Primotastic goes down to KQZ, and the rest of this fight is just unfolding. Wawa Weewa does get a potion, well played, but Darkbreakers is going to smell you out. Finishing another kill. IMQT is closing this one out, man of class.
They really are, because every single time that Thunder Thighs gets a squad wipe, there comes IMQT doing the same thing. And as long as they stay even, they're going to run away with it. They're not going to be able to be touched. But as soon as it happens that either IMQT just goes down, like as a whole, or if they don't keep getting these exiles, then it becomes more interesting. So far, they're still in the lead. They're still maintaining their lead. They're completely even in terms of this particular game. Maybe not in terms of damage, but close enough with Thunder Thighs. And that's a super exciting prospect for them because that means they're just basically winning right now. But Thunder Thighs are not going to just let that happen. You see it here, just above this Halcyon area. Actually, not that far away from where I think that IMQT is right now. They might get touched in the back by them. That's a dangerous proposition if they don't have their head on the swivel, but they're looking for it. They're looking for these squads. You really can see them hunting. They're not even looking for the movement. They're just looking for where can we find someone to kill because we need these exiles. We need that damage.
I mean, exactly, right? They know this is game 8 out of 8. They got one more chance to break the bank and really show up for some big picks. You see Mills, he does have that Shadow Step double stacked. The burst is certainly going to be there for the Toxicologist, scavenging as well on the talent selection. So that should tell you enough about how Millsy is really looking to thirst for some kills. Getting resource on Exile is going to be massive for him, trying to snowball this last game. Got Doc W as well on that Pyro class, it looks like. So this is a nice selection of 3, but this is what they're competing with, right? Seeing this other team of IMQT, that's Marcus, aka Apostle, Darkbreakers, and KQZ. That's a tough squad to try to push in a final fight. We'll see if they can really get the jump on them and maybe make a massive play. But first, they're going to have to keep wiping the rest of the lobby, man of class. They're going to need to contest every single fight.
And already here, this squad down, Noah the Elite. That will not be a squad that's likely going for the win. But there we see it in the kill feed. Doc gets the kill onto Zilanik? I'm even going to try and pronounce that. That's just a name. They just get someone. I don't think they're in the tournament. So that's a good one to get. It's another exile they're getting ahead. That's that's just point leads. That's just extra points against what IMQT is trying to pull out right now. And that's all they need. They need those extra points. That's one again, a kill they have over them right now. And it could be more. They could find more players here. And they're in this area. I think, he spotted them. Doc saw something move. And it says, guys, kills. Let's go get him. I see 1, I see 2, I see 3. I don't know, but yep, that's 3. That's definitely 3. So that's going to be a very interesting fight, and this could very well be that IMQT squad because they were rotating roughly in a similar direction. And that would be exciting because if we get the exile now on the IMQT, all the score that gets taken after is just lead. And it looks like it is. That might be Darkbreakers in that buckskin. This is a very good focus from Doc to shake down Darkbreakers so low. Gets a lot of fireballs in their face though. Super low. The recovery has kicked in, but Doc has to run for the hills. That's to get away from this. Almost it's a spring step back up. Extra rune charges. Is trying to get away, trying to get the safety. Kukuzi meanwhile has been taken down by Moktola, and I think they lost track of Doc. Doc actually managed to get back up. This is a 3v2 fight right now, and that's great for Thunder Thighs. It's still relatively early in the late game, meaning they can get a lot more exiles after this if they win the squad fight. But they need to finish it off. They cannot let the reses get off. They cannot let IMQT get away with this one. The Dragonfire onto the Disrupt, onto the Vanishing Mist. There's another few fireballs they're trying to get off on this opponent. It's almost there. It's one more fireball, and that's it. That's Marcus, aka Apostle, down. Moktola does get finished up by Kukuzi. Actually, apparently got taken back out, and Darkbreakers is still up. It's a 2v2 to finish this off. Nice fireball flick from Doc. Doc might actually be able to finish this off together with their teammate. It's still a 2v2, like we keep saying. Kuzi and Darkbreakers versus Doc and Millsy. This is the fight that might actually decide the entire outcome of this qualifiers. If IMQT wins this, it's over. It's done. It's dusted. Moktola goes down. Doc goes down. It will indeed almost be there. It's just Millsy. 1v2. Can Millsy pull it out? It's so close here, plays. I don't even know what's going to happen anymore. The Shadow Step rune comes out. Millsy is looking for it. They know exactly where their teammates are. They know exactly where they are. I think they did a very good movement there to duke it out, but that means that probably someone can get res back up on the other side. Out on Marcus, I think he's too far away, but that res, if that comes back out, it could be a 3v2 or 3v3. It's all in the possibilities here, and it's all do you get spotted, yes or no. I think they're waiting for the Shadow Step cooldown to maybe try and teleport in here, but they're waiting for them. They're seeing them. They know where this last player is. Try and go for the res. Actually getting it up. The heals are going off as well. This fight is not over yet, play safe.
No, that's enormous right there. Thunderthighs just got a break from heaven to get the pickup onto Doc. I mean, Moktola might fall again, but nonetheless, that was a life-saving moment. Moktola does go down, and that's Darkbreakers up in the face, but Marcus falls to Doc, who did get the pickup, and now look at Darkbreakers getting so low, and he will fall! Doc getting a nice drop. Can he survive the storm? Now it's KQZ versus Doc, who has more HP. KQZ, we don't know where he's at. Doc is low. Doc is low here. He must back off. He goes for the potion. I'll see if he can try to turn this fight completely, but I'm not sure what his confidence is in this aggressive push.
He goes for the res.
KQZ will try to push off as well. You can only assume that KQZ is also rezzing. Doc doing a great job of getting onto his teammates and picking them up as soon as possible. KQZ now spotted. Doc hits him with a beautiful firewall. Going to keep up that chase. Oh my goodness, Doc is doing such a clutch job for his team right now, Man of Class. He's picking up that work right now as he drills an air shot into the side of KQZ. Hits another from deep, and that might just be the kill. One more to go. KQZ is so low as Doc is just... Oh! Hits him from deep. Kobe Bryant range, and he snipes him deep. Doc will fall, though. Millsy is the only one left for Thunderthighs. I can't believe that. Millsy must do some work, Man of Class.
That fight took too long. The speakers of the dead come back in. They're trying to go for the res here because the third party is happening. Can they get it off? It looks like it. Millsy might actually pick up Doc again. Doc is just going to keep on firing, but the Dragon Fire hits huge. That is definitely the end of this. Thunder Thighs, they barely got any extra points. We might be seeing the damage in the Exiles number later, but the placement is definitely not going to make the difference here. This is so close, and because that fight took so long, IMQT had them locked in a dead. They knew that if they took that fight for long enough, this was going to be a super hard game to win and get more kills on for Thunder Thighs. And that strategy just paid off for them in the end. Is the last team left. And yes, you get a nice victory out there if you're the last squad. But that entire game was all about the score race, the points race between the IMQT squad and the Thunder Thighs. And I just think that difference was not big enough for Thunder Thighs to challenge it.
No, I don't think so. I think you got that one right on the money. I do believe IMQT did separate themselves far enough to win this event. We will wait a little bit longer so we can show you guys the scores live on screen. But shout out as well to Clash Clang right there, Man of Class. They picked up a nice W in the final game of the day and in one of what was the most contested match of the day. Clash Clang gets a nice win. And nonetheless, we also got to give credit to Doc because we were watching his perspective live and he just had a pop-off right there, making smart plays, mechanical, beautiful plays as well. Everything was online for that squad.
Yeah, if anyone's looking for a Pyromancer in Europe or just a Pyromancer in general, definitely try and look for Doc because that was an insane pop-off game from them. Now, Thunder Thighs did actually get a lot of points back. And it's looking very close in the total score. We're going to see what happens with IMQT's score also gets added up. It's probably too close to call at this stage because still games have also to be eliminated. We're still tallying up the final total scores. And then you look at which two games are going to get taken away. And if the gap is close enough, then once again, because IMQT had such good games overall, they're going to get more points taken away from that than, for instance, a team like Thunder Thighs that had some lower scores. So in the end, at points, we might still end up having Thunder Thighs win. When you look at the scores right now, that difference is minimal. It's 180 points roughly. That's not a lot, and that might just be the difference maker. It's going up still a little bit for IMQT, but I don't think we have much to go. This might actually end up in a very mathematical race here, Place.
I know this might be the closest qualifier we've seen so far in the Fusion tournament. I mean, in the first qualifier, we saw UT sweeping at home. In the second qualifier, it was closer, but Haunt had a convincing set of victories to take the W. But this one might come down to the wire. It might come down to, like you said, the
It might.
mathematical calculation. I mean, just to quickly clarify for anybody in the chat, Man of Class's big brain statements right now, what he's saying is that 2 games must be eliminated out of 8. And IMQT had consistently high scored games. 2 of those games still have to be removed. And the same thing for Thunder Thighs. They had 2 games that were quite low, so that parity in those scores might close out from that elimination. I'm not sure who's going to call this one.
Okay, so we're talking about 156 point difference in that last game. That's how much Thunder Thighs got more because of those extra exiles they got. They got 5 more exiles. They did about like 800 points more damage, and they got, of course, an extra placement. So that's the point difference that you get from that, 150, 156 roughly. So then we have to look at, the difference between the games that get taken away. Like you just said, the points that are being eliminated. And they were at a fairly big difference. I think it was like 500 points, I think, before the game started. And that difference has all but been closed. It's super close between them, but we're still eliminating those points that they are not getting. That's where we're at right now. So the gap between Thunder Thighs and IMQT is under 200 points. It's 91 or something. That's the difference between them. So it's not a lot. And that could actually be the difference where Thunder Thighs, the EU team, sort of the underdogs almost, might take it away.
I mean, I think we are hearing that the scores are final. So although we cannot see it on this production, it should be pulled up right now for you guys to all see on the screen.
Yeah.
It should be the top 5 teams. So we will pop this one up as well so we can see it with you guys. And it looks like IMQT won the event, a very close margin. It did thin out at the end like we were talking about, but nonetheless, huge congratulations to IMQT for sweeping this event. A great set of gameplay from Marcus, from Darkbreakers and Kuzi to come together and really show up, but also Thunder Thighs for sticking in it, staying consistent, and making it competitive.
Yeah, definitely. It's been well, probably the closest qualifier we've had so far. It's been super close between these teams, and even if you don't get that first place now, if you're Thunder Thighs, that wildcard spot is still up for grabs, and they're looking very good to potentially take that. So it's been a hot one. It's been so close between them, and I'm honestly flabbergasted how close this got, because it's 191 points. That's the difference between them. That's what we're at the final one. And there's a big gap after that. I will say that. Speaker of the Dead, SAP, while they were keeping up quite well in the earlier games, they really dropped off near the end. And that final fight between Thunder Thighs and MQT, if that actually gets taken out sooner, if they get that first engage straight away, get the kills, and they then clean up the rest of the lobby, this might fall the other way. I think that last fight, that dragging on for so long, might have been a difference maker.
Yeah, that was really one coming down to the wire right there. And something else, right? If IMQT had one game where they die right at the start, it totally flips this score set. This could have been a different result, but we have to give credit to IMQT for their consistency. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. To show up in 8 games for 2.5 hours, not breaking focus once during that match, I mean, it's just impressive, right? Thunder Thighs as well had a great showing, but there was some signs of lost focus. It was just an entertaining qualifier from start to finish. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. We should be pulling up one more set of stats so you guys can get a bit of a deeper look at everything that happened here. But what a qualifier, Man of Class.
Yeah, and the highest score. I mean, they didn't only put out consistently good scores, they also had the highest score of the day with 814 points. That is an insane amount of points you reckon up in that one game. That is, I mean, that's IMQT just definitely establishing that they were just the best team of the day, consistently speaking, and also from a pop-off perspective. So they definitely deserve to win this. I think no one can dispute that. But the only problem is that, I as an EU man, I'm a little bit sad that Thunder Thighs might make it. But like I said, we have wild cards. We're still 2 up for grabs. Even if you didn't win a qualifier, you can still get that up. And with this close of a score, with this close of a qualifier, it's very possible that Thunder Thighs might get invited for that. But of course, only on qualifier number 3. So we're no way guaranteeing that. There's still 5 more qualifiers to be played in which teams can get even closer and even more well, even better for that pop-up potential. Might even see some scores go all the way up to the 3,500s in those, but we'll see. For now, that has been a phenomenal qualifier place.
Yeah, definitely phenomenal. And looking at this pie graph sitting up on the screen right now. Also,
Yeah.
big shout out to SAP. Although they didn't have the placements to push them into those top finishes, they did such a great job of playing aggressive. And we have to give them a shout out for playing to their game style. They were not afraid to come into this qualifier and play super aggressive, looking for exiles,
Yeah.
looking for damage. So we also got to give a shout out to SAP. But most importantly, big shout out to everybody for joining us on this fine Friday afternoon or morning, depending on where your time zone is. I think with that, we can call it. That is the end of qualifier number 3. Massive shout out to Marcus, aka Apostle, the Dark Breakers, and QZ for taking the W in this qualifier number 3. Anything else you want to say to the people, man of class, before we send them off with the night raid?
Thank you for bearing with us. I mean, I know it's a long one. We know we started off with some technical difficulties, and it wasn't quite the smooth production as you normally expected from us. But we had a great time nonetheless. I hope you did too. And of course, we'll see you in the next one. I think the next one is on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me just double check so we can make sure. Yes, the next qualifier is actually on Wednesday. So that is qualifier number 4 on November 11th, 3 p.m. Eastern at the same time. And the cool thing about that qualifier coming up on Wednesday, guys, is that it goes Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. We have 3 qualifiers in 5 days, and that's going to be a lot of action for you guys. So although we had a little bit of issues in the start here, we're going to get that all ironed out for you guys before the big wave of qualifiers. Thank you for joining us. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and we really appreciate your support. Make sure you join Element with !Element. Join the Discord, get involved in the community. And I think with that, man of class, we're off for the weekend.
Yep, we definitely are. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy whatever you're going to be doing. And I hope, of course, it's also going to be playing a lot of Spellbreak. Maybe watching the VODs back. I don't know what you're going to do, but support everybody and have a fun life.